Konoha East Uchiha is very cautious. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351 Different reactions from both sides. At the same time when the Reincarnated received the news that the Two-Tails Jinchuriki was abducted by Konoha, this news was also passed to Konoha. However, unlike the Reincarnated who was playing with dumbbells in his office, the third Hokage was a guest at the Hyuga family at this time. In an empty Japanese-style room, the floor of the room is paved with logs. After years of polishing, the surface is flat and smooth, like a mirror, reflecting the shadows of people and objects. Under the moonlight, the texture on the floor is clearly visible. The whole room is very empty, except for a few futons in the middle. There is no furniture. The roof does not use fashionable electric lights, but continues to use the old-fashioned lighting method, with a few oil lamps hanging on the mottled walls. Everything looks old and dulled, as if the owner of this room. I disagree. No matter what, I cannot let Hisashi die because of my mistake. Besides, Sandaime-sama, is there no other way to solve the problem? It was the head of the Kumo ninja who sneaked into our Hyuga family and tried to kidnap my daughter. Why do we have to give an explanation? In the empty Japanese-style room, the Sandaime Hokage, wearing a red and white Hokage robe and a bamboo hat, sat in the middle, and three Hyuga high-ranking people with similar temperaments sat on his left and right. Hyuga Hayashi was very angry. It was obviously not his fault. But those Kumo ninjas wanted him to die. It was outrageous, and these elders in the clan actually let their own brothers die in their place. Hayashi was extremely angry because he could not control the grievance in his heart. Hayashi, this is also for the peace of the village. The Kumo ninjas have proposed a life for a life. If we don't hand over the murderer who killed the Kumo ninjas, they will not let it go. In this way, more Konoha ninjas, even young people, will be sent to the battlefield by us. Have you considered the consequences of doing so? The Sandaime Hokage took a puff of cigarette. His eyes did not look at Hayashi. His side was unfocused, just looking straight ahead. He is old now, no longer the former ninja hero. His heart is only on maintaining this hard-won peace. If it is just to hand over a Konoha ninja, for the peace of Konoha, he will not care about the identity of this Konoha ninja. Patriarch. Just after the Sandaime Hokage expressed his position, Hisashi, who was sitting at the bottom and looked exactly like Hayashi, spoke. Looking at his fellow brother, he opened his mouth and continued to speak. Brother, if it is for the peace of Konoha and for Hyuga, I am ready. Hisashi, who spoke again, did not call Hayashi the clan leader, but called his brother with this title that he had not spoken for nearly 20 years. Although he had an inexplicable hatred for his brother, the main family and even Hyuga, he had no other choice in this place. He only hoped that the other party would allow Eiji to grow smoothly for the sake of this brother, even if he became a slave of a branch family like him. The village will remember Hyuga's efforts. All this is for the village and for the overall situation. Hisashi's sacrifice will not be in vain. Relieved, the Sandaime was very satisfied with Hyuga's choice. Since the Hyuga side has been dealt with, the rest is the Kumogakure side. With Hisashi's body, I think the Kumogakure will have nothing to say. Finally putting down the big stone in his heart, the Sandaime stood up and prepared to leave this somewhat depressing old house. But before he could leave, an explosive news disrupted all his plans. Uchiha Toshiro actually captured the Two-Tails Jinchuriki, and he is now in the Konoha camp. Along with the news came Shikaku's urgent request for help, asking him to immediately increase his troops to guard against possible retaliation by the Kumo ninja. Along with the letter came Uchiha Toshiro's request for him to fulfill his promise and a report on the other party's strength. After hastily reading the information, the Sandaime pressed down the bamboo hat on his head, hiding his face under the bamboo hat in the night. At this time, in the camp of the Kumo ninja village, after a dazzling light, two tall figures came to the Kumo ninja camp. Where is Darui? Where is he now? As soon as he landed, the fourth Reincarnated shouted at the Kumo ninja who was still a little dazed in the camp. Reincarnated. Lord Reincarnated, Darui Jonin is discussing countermeasures with the camp's top leaders, confirming that the person in front of him was really the Raikage. The surprised Kuro ninja didn't waste any words and directly led the Raikage to a brightly lit tent. His boss is an impatient person. If he dilly-dillies, he will suffer a lot. Darui, what's going on? Who kidnapped Yukito? Ignoring the guards outside the tent, the Raikage lifted the curtain. Before he entered the tent, his voice reached the ears of the high-ranking Kumo ninjas who attended the meeting. Boss, according to the information from the intelligence team, we have confirmed that the one who kidnapped Yukito is Uchiha Toshiro from the famous Uchiha family in the ninja world. Seeing their boss suddenly come, the Kuro ninjas present were not surprised. They were just surprised by the person who followed the Kumo ninja. Wasn't the other party arranged by the Raikage to be protected in the Kumo Gorge? Why did he follow this time? Yo, Uchiha, this uncle. Easily killed. Before the Raikage could comment on the news, Killer B, who followed him, spoke first, and his unique rap came out as soon as he opened his mouth. Bang! Bye! Shut up! The Raikage, who was irritated by his brother's unique hobby, couldn't bear his anger and punched the other's head. There was a muffled sound. Then the whole world was quiet. The Raikage had not planned to bring his brother to the front line this time, but unfortunately, when he asked Mabui to prepare the Sky Song technique, the other party was bored because of staying in Yunlai Gorge for a long time, so he ran to the village to relax. After learning that he was going to the front line, Kairabi, who had been bored for several years, said he would come with him. For this reason, he used his special rap to convince the Raikage, and used the Sky Song technique with the other party to come to the front camp. However, unlike the Raikage who directly resisted the Sky Song technique, he used the Tale of the Eight Tails to wrap himself up, so that he could withstand the pressure of long-distance transmission. Uchiha Toshiro, from the Uchiha family? Do you have any specific information about the other party? Hearing Toshiro's surname, the Raikage did not react much, but he did not forget to ask for the other party's specific information. Obtaining information related to the other party's strength is the most basic quality of a ninja. Chapter 352, Vigorous and Resolute. The other party is a member of the Uchiha family of the bloodline, and possesses the bloodline Genkai Sharingan. We haven't dealt with him many times, but we only know that he is good at swordsmanship, illusion, fire escape, and lightning escape, and during the rampage of the Nine Tails 4 years ago, he summoned a giant summoned beast that can confront the Nine Tails head-on. A large ninja village, as long as they want to collect information about a person, they can have a general understanding of some of the things that the other party has done. Although Toshiro has not dealt with the Cloud Ninja many times, some of the semi-public information was quickly collected by the Cloud Ninja, and this time, the Wooden Man directly released the Matataribi, and the other party took the Wooden Man away after directly defeating the Matataribi. The other party showed a very terrifying power when fighting the Matataribi this time. After reporting the general battle between the other party and the Matataribi to the Raikage, Darui looked at the Raikage with a guilty face. I'm sorry, boss, it's all my fault. If I hadn't kept an eye on Yukito, things wouldn't have turned out like this. It's indeed your fault this time, but since we made a mistake, we should just make up for it. With one hand on Darui's shoulder, the Raikage didn't blame him too much for what happened this time. Seeing him blaming himself, the Raikage spoke again in a high-pitched voice. But we Cloud Ninjas are not afraid of failure. Come with me, Darui, let's make up for this mistake. After saying this, the Raikage, who had just arrived at the tent, strode out of the tent with Killer B and Darui, leaving a large group of camp leaders behind. They really came and went in a hurry. Lord Raikage, where are you going? Please don't act on your own. After a long while, watching the Raikages gradually disappearing back, the Cloud Ninja leaders in this tent finally reacted. Their Raikage had left them behind and ran straight to the Konoha camp. One by one, they jumped up as if their hair had exploded, and hurriedly chased after the other's figure, trying to persuade him not to be so impulsive. But they couldn't catch up with the speed of the Raikage. It's really the Raikage's style. Notify everyone and have all the combatants get ready and gather at the Konoha camp. A Cloud Ninja who was blind in one left eye, wearing an eye patch with a thunder pattern and a strange hat, looked at the gradually disappearing 4th generation Raikage and had a headache for a moment. At this time in the Konoha camp, Toshiro had just had a sumptuous dinner and was resting in his tent. "I advise you to let me go, otherwise the Raikage will not let you go." As a captive, Yukito looked at Toshiro, who was holding a scroll and reading it, and said threateningly, "Don't daydream about this kind of thing, but you don't have to worry. When the 3rd generation Hokage signs a peace agreement with you Cloud Ninjas, you should be fine." He was looking at some scrolls about the application of yin-style escape, and the Uzumaki secret scroll promised by the 3rd generation Hokage had not been delivered yet. "So, don't have any crooked thoughts, this will be good for you, me and everyone else." Glancing at the other party, Toshiro did not take the other party's threat seriously. What if the 4th Raikage came? It was just a good opportunity to weigh the other party's strength. Yukito really had no way out now. There were some problems with the seal of the armor on her body, and her own chakra was also sealed by the other party. Even some small movements could not escape the eyes of the other party. She really regretted her invasion of the Land of Fire this time, however. She believed that the Raikage would come to save her. "There is an intruder." Just when Yukito was wondering when the Raikage would come to save her, a shrill alarm sounded throughout the Konoha camp. "It's the 4th Hokage. It must be the 4th Hokage who came to save me." Hearing this alarm, Yukito suddenly became energetic, and even the subtle worry that had been lingering on her face since being captured disappeared. "You too, keep an eye on this woman. I'll go out and see what's going on." After handing the wooden man over to the 2 Konoha ninjas sent by Nara Shikaku, Toshiro walked towards the location he sensed. "Captain Nara, I didn't expect you to come so soon." Before they had walked far, Toshiro saw Nara Shikaku and several ninjas with obvious features, hurriedly walking towards them. They all looked like elite nobles. Looking at the pair of ninjas, Toshiro praised them a little. "Uchiha Jonin, the Raikage has directly entered the camp. Please go over and hold them off." As soon as he saw Toshiro, Shikaku was like seeing a savior, and hurriedly asked him to stop the Raikage. As for the other party's praise, it was just some polite words, and he didn't take it seriously. He didn't expect that the revenge of the Kumo ninja would come so soon, and it was the 4th Raikage himself who came. "You guys, go over and watch the captives." While speaking, he did not forget to say to the pig, deer, and Chu combination behind him. The Raikage rushed to the camp of Konoha alone to rescue people. This action made him, a smart man, a little confused. It was really too reckless. "Let's go. I guess the front can't stop the Raikage for long." Although the opponent was reckless, his strength was really beyond doubt. It seemed that it was not difficult for just one person to attack the camp guarded by more than 1,000 people in Konoha. The ninjas in the camp, whether they were Jonin or elite Jonin, simply collapsed at the first touch when facing such a strong man, and they were completely useless. Thinking of the source of all this, Shikaku did not hesitate and directly brought people to find Toshiro. The incident was caused by him, and it was right for the opponent to deal with the Raikage. "No need. The opponent is already here." Before Shikaku could react, Toshiro rushed towards the blue lightning that appeared in front of him. This is really, looking at Toshiro's back and the blue lightning in the distance, Nara Shikaku couldn't help but twitch his eyebrows. The Raikage is too perverted. Although they were caught off guard, were those Konoha ninjas in front of them made of wood? They broke through the defense and rushed into the depths of the camp. Boom! Before he could dispel the thoughts in his mind, a sound of air being violently squeezed and then exploded rang in his ears, pulling his thoughts back to the battlefield. "What are you still standing there for? Go and see the Jinchuriki." Chapter 353 Tit for Tat. After seeing the blue lightning, Toshiro had no intention of avoiding it. He burst out at his fastest speed, bringing up dust all the way, and rushed towards the 4th Raikage who was heading straight here. Boom! Seeing that such an annoying Konoha ninja was fighting a close battle with him, the 4th Raikage, who was already annoyed by those ninjutsu, did not hesitate at all and punched him directly. In close combat, they, the Raikage lineage, have never been afraid of anyone. However, the opponent's strength was obviously beyond his expectations. "Are you Uchiha Toshiro?" The one you kidnapped by the wooden man? He stepped back slightly to create distance, and moved his right hand that had just collided with the opponent. The Raikage looked at the pattern in the opponent's eyes and had a general understanding of Tawashiro's identity. Sure enough, he has some skills. Just after a collision, he felt the power contained in the opponent's fist, which really should not be underestimated. Why are you talking about all this nonsense? Let's just have a good fight first. Seeing that the Raikage was actually trying to argue with him, Tawashiro ignored it, stepped forward, and attacked the Raikage with a whip kick. HMPH, arrogant. Seeing the other party's attitude, the fourth Raikage, who was covered in a layer of blue lightning, snorted angrily, and directly activated his lightning body, going around behind Tawashiro. Lightning abuse level. An extremely simple hand knife was swung at Tawashiro's back. He wanted to let this arrogant Uchiha know the consequences of offending him. The Cloud Ninja, although his attack moves were simple, coupled with the speed he burst out, it was not something that ordinary ninjas could take. The average jonin couldn't even do a defensive move when facing his attack, let alone dodge or take it. Bang! It's just a pity that his enemy this time was not an ordinary jonin, but Tawashiro. Up to now, he has learned the fairy technique for 10 years. He has been using fairy chakra to activate his body for many years. His strength, speed, endurance, reaction and other aspects have reached a very abnormal level. Even if the opponent is the Raikage, he may have some gaps in speed, but the gap is not so big that he can't keep up. Excellent speed. With his arm bent and stabbed back, Dong Shilang's elbow was like a sharp spear, colliding with the Raikage again, and he didn't forget to comment on the speed of the Raikage. The opponent's speed is indeed 1 or 2 faster than his, but he didn't gain an overwhelming advantage. With his Sharingan, his excellent perception and speed, it is not very difficult for him to deal with the Raikage's attack. Moreover, although he is not as fast as the opponent, he has advantages in strength and endurance. Swish! A burst of blue lightning flashed, and Dong Shilang kicked back while blocking the Raikage's attack, but unfortunately, there was no figure of the opponent at the original place. If the Raikage's attack is so innocuous, then it's disappointing. Seeing the opponent dodge, Tawashiro did not get discouraged, but took the initiative to attack the Raikage. Boy, I admit that you have some skills, but all those who underestimated the Raikage are dead, and you are no exception. After saying this, the layer of thunder wheel armor on the Raikage seemed to have changed, and then he responded to Tawashiro's attack with an elbow. Moreover, this is not the end. After responding to Tawashiro's elbow, the Raikage did not disappear in front of Tawashiro as he did before, but raised his leg and hit Tawashiro's middle door with a knee. Boom, boom, boom. With this knee strike, the Raikage continued to attack, using his speed advantage to attack Tawashiro. Although no harm was done to Tawashiro, the ground of the camp, as well as some surrounding buildings and fortifications, were damaged and destroyed by the aftermath of their battle. Is this the strength of Uchiha Tawashiro? Looking at the two blurred figures in the field from a distance, the wind pressure blowing from time to time, and the buildings being destroyed, Narashikaku finally understood why the third Hokage always seemed so easy to talk to when facing Tawashiro. Shikaku. What should we do? If these two continue like this, the whole camp may be destroyed by them. While dodging the aftermath of the battle between the two people in the field and the scattered splashes, Yamanaka Inoichi carefully approached Narashikaku and asked, "The destructive power of these two people is really too strong." "I don't know." Shaking his head, Narashikaku didn't have any good solution, but, instead of worrying about these, we might as well think about how to deal with the large army of the Cloud Ninja. The large army of the Cloud Ninja? You don't think that the Raikage's men are all dead, do you? No matter how reckless the Raikage of the Hidden Cloud Village is, he still has so many men. They won't just watch their boss fight alone. Let's change places. After fighting with the Raikage for several rounds, both sides have almost understood each other's level. Dong Shilang looked at the miserable camp around him. He took a look at the Raikage on the opposite side and rushed out of the camp. Don't think about escaping. Escape? How could he escape? It's not easy to meet such an opponent who can punch and hit. How could Dong Shilang escape? In fact, He has always disliked the ninja's fighting style of hiding in the dark and attacking, or releasing ninjutsu attacks, which man doesn't want to have an opponent with whom he can have a fist-to-flesh and passionate battle. Not to mention him, he can see that the Raikage on the opposite side seems to be the same as him. It is hard to find an opponent, especially an opponent who can let go and has no scruples. This is one of the reasons why the opponent will rush out of the camp with him. However, just when he took the Raikage away from the Konoha camp, one night, a man wearing a pair of small sunglasses and 2 blue horns on his face entered the camp from another direction of the camp with a step that did not recognize his relatives. It was the Kyrabi who had not shown up. Although the Raikage is a big and strong man, he can still use some simple tricks. He will lead Toshiro away, and then Kyrabi will rescue Yukito from the Konoha camp. Without Toshiro, it is not difficult for Kyrabi to rescue Yukito, but it is not difficult. Chapter 354 Rescue. Lure the tiger away from the mountain. What a genius idea. Yukito found you. While muttering his own rap, Kyrabi approached the tent. Yukito's iron armor seal contained the tracking method added by the Cloud Ninja. At such a close distance, it would not take much effort for him to find Yukito. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Before he could get close to Yukito's tent, a large number of shurikens and kunai shot towards Kyrabi. Obviously, the Konoha ninja guarding Yukito had discovered his trail and attacked him without even saying hello. These little tricks are useless to me. Without using his own ninja sword or using ninjutsu to resist, Kyrabi just twisted his thick waist, swung his fat buttocks, and made strange gestures with his arms to avoid this wave of tentative attacks. But that posture was really a bit eye-catching. Ninjutsu, shadow imitation technique, secret technique, body transformation technique. Before Kyrabi could be proud of how enchanting his dance steps were and how smooth his posture was, a black shadow came silently under his feet. Then he felt as if he was in someone else's body, appreciating his masterpiece from another perspective. Secret technique, partial multiplication technique. Just as he was about to praise his current posture for being so beautiful and smooth, a fist as big as a carriage smashed towards his head. No, just as Kyrabi couldn't bear to see his miserable appearance next, and shouted in his heart, "Ah!" His body suddenly opened its mouth and screamed in fear, and then Kyrabi returned to his body again. Moreover, before he could react, a flesh-colored tentacle with dense suction cups grew out from behind him, resisting the threat from above his head. "What's wrong with you, Ryoichi?" Seeing his companion suddenly exclaimed, the Nara clan member, as the captain, had no time to care about the strange tentacles behind him, and began to care about the condition of his companion. "Be careful, the other party is the 8-tailed Jinchuriki of the Cloud Ninja." Just after entering Killer Bee's body, before this Yamanaka Ryoichi could make any move, a strange creature with flesh-colored body, which looked like both a cow and an octopus, greeted him and then yelled at him. He has not come back to his senses yet, but it seems that he has thought of something. The Yamanaka clan member still endured the pain in his head and reminded his companion in a hoarse voice, "What?" Hearing this, the Nara clan member who was sent by his clan leader to guard the 2-tailed Jinchuriki was really a MMP stuck in his throat and didn't know how to spit it out. The Cloud Ninjas are too troublesome. In the middle of the night, not only did the Raikage personally go out, but even the 8-tailed Jinchuriki went out. What should he do? "You go first with your target." He looked at the tent behind him, made a gesture to his companions, and shouted at the tent behind him. At this point, he had no good solution. He could only let the Konoha ninjas in the tents retreat with their Jinchuriki first, and they would hold on for a while. He only hoped that the clan leader would find out that the situation here was not good as soon as possible and send people to support. Otherwise, okay, there is enough distance from the camp, which should be convenient for your companions to take action. Let's start the next round of competition. Looking at the Raikage following behind him, Danshiro showed a provocative look at the other party and said, "You actually know our plan? It's not a very clever trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain." Hearing the other party's question, Danshiro's face was full of sarcasm, and he replied indifferently, "The Raikage came out to attract the attention of Konoha's main fighting force. and then asked his subordinates or companions to rescue Yukito. Toshiro was not an idiot. How could he not know? However, it didn't matter. The chakra of the Two Tails was already in his hands. He didn't care much whether the Two Tails Jinchuriki was in Konoha's hands or not. It's more interesting to continue the unfinished battle than the insignificant Jinchuriki. Since you want to die, I'll help you. Although he didn't know why the other party knew his plan and still followed his script, it didn't prevent him from killing him. Boy, be prepared to die. After saying this, the chakra reaction of the Raikage's whole body surged again, and the shape of the lightning armor also changed, becoming thicker. Even the two slender chakra spikes on the shoulders became thicker and longer, looking more ferocious. The original big back hair also turned into an afro. Finally show your real skills. This is interesting. The previous battle, whether it was him or the Raikage, was actually just a warm-up. Now is the real contest. Come on. Let me see if the famous lightning armor of the Kumagakure village is as indestructible as the rumors say. After saying this, Toshiro's aura changed, and he no longer had the calmness he had just shown when fighting with the opponent. A huge amount of chakra slowly burst out from his body, creating a gust of wind around him. Even the grass and trees on the ground seemed to float slowly into the air because of the chakra in his body, and the trees beside him also fell to the sides because of the gust of wind that came out of nowhere. Raito Ninja Yushu Tulai Sword's strange power boom. The collision of the two fists was like the collision of two high-speed locomotives. While the huge noise burst out, the ground under their feet was cracked. The air around them seemed unable to withstand the power bursting out from the two of them. It exploded from time to time, and because it could not withstand the speed they burst out, it made a whimpering sound. As the Raikage adjusted the lightning chakra stimulation to the highest level, Toshiro burst out his strongest chakra, and the two began a competition of strength and speed. Ha 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 ha. That's it. This is the kind of fight that should happen between men. Feeling his violently beating heart and the alarm of his body being unwilling to bear the heavy burden, Toshiro laughed and kicked the Raikage in the head with a roundhouse kick. Boy, let you feel the terror of the Raikage polishing ball. The Raikage has the advantage in speed between the two sides, and Toshiro is stronger, but neither can gain an absolute advantage. For a moment, the entire battlefield was beaten to pieces. At the same time, Toshiro and the Raikage were both excited and immersed in it. Both he and the Raikage have not experienced such a difficult battle for a long time. Personally, I think the Raikage's moves are too simple and plain, and the author is a little confused. Chapter 355 New Moves. Konoha's northern camp. Under the cold moonlight, Narashikaku looked at a gap at the edge of the camp in a daze. It's worthy of the Raikage and Uchiha, not to mention the place in the camp where Toshiro had just fought with the Raikage. Just the outer wall in front of him, which was built with ninjutsu and sealing techniques, was not something that ordinary ninjas could destroy. Shikaku, are we just going to watch from afar? Just as Narashikaku was lamenting the differences between people, a plump man with loose red hair and two streaks of oil on his face looked at the lightning and explosions coming from afar, and said with some concern, after all, he is the fourth Raikage. Will there be any accidents with Uchiha Toshiro alone? As the butterfly in the combination of pig, deer, and butterfly, this man who is so fat that you can't see his eyes even if he doesn't squint has a rare gentle heart. Go over and help. You saw the battle just now. This is not something we can intervene in. Narashikaku twitched his lips, and he did not say anything about his companions. They have been working closely together for so many years, and he knows the other party's nature very well. Although the Raikage is very strong, with the cooperation of the three of us and Uchiha Toshiro, even if he is the Raikage, we should be able to keep him. Anyway, the other party is a partner in the village. Forget it, although the other party is a partner. But he is also an Uchiha. Waving his hand, Narashikaku did not explain to the other party the complicated relationship between the Uchiha and the Hokage, but cast his eyes on the outer wall of this dilapidated camp. No, it is outside the outer wall of the camp, and our troubles are coming. Through the outer wall of the camp, you can see that a large group of cloud ninjas with scattered formations have come to the periphery of this camp, and they are faintly posing an offensive posture. It seems that they want to use this method to warn the Konoha ninjas in the camp not to dream of besieging their boss. Everyone, be alert and be ready to deal with the attack of the Cloud Ninja at any time. Combat troops. Medical team. Reconnaissance team. Chief. Just as Narashikaku began to dispatch the Konoha ninjas in the camp and began to prepare for the war that could break out at any time, a familiar voice came into his ears. Shikao. Shikaku's already bad face changed when he saw this tribe member. The two-tailed Jinchuriki was rescued by the Cloud Ninja. Although he had expected it, when he really heard the news, Shikaku's face still became very ugly. He had considered that the Raikage broke into the Konoha camp alone to create chaos in order to cover the rescue of the two-tailed Jinchuriki. For this reason, he specially sent a pair of elite Inoshikacho combinations, and then replaced Tawashiro. The enemy is the eight-tailed Jinchuriki. After reporting this news to the chief, the Jonin named Narashikaku could no longer hold on and fainted directly. Medical team. Seeing this, before Shikaku could speak, Chozuo beside him called for the medical ninja first. This is really troublesome. Narashikaku, who had been standing there until the medical staff took his people away, looked at his companions and said in a heavy tone, "According to the intelligence, hasn't the AB team been disbanded since the 4th generation Raikage took office? The Eight Tails Jinchuriki seems to be imprisoned in the Cloud Raikage Gorge by the Cloud Ninja. Why did he appear with the Raikage this time? What you fear will come true." He had considered this when the Raikage appeared, but in the end, their high-end combat power was insufficient. Heavy flow explosion. Using his elbow as a spike, the Raikage turned into a lightning spear and launched another charge at Tawashiro with an indomitable momentum. The opponent's figure could not be captured by the naked eye at all, and even the Sharingan's superior dynamic vision could only barely capture the opponent's afterimage. It's useless. Looking at the Raikage who used his speed advantage to rush towards him again, Dong Shilang was not afraid at all. He clenched his fist tightly and roared loudly. Calm shot. Boom. As Dong Shilang's fist hit the air in front of him exploded directly, leaving a white trace similar to an air explosion in the air. In his Sharingan's vision, he could see a group of highly condensed chakra, which flew towards the empty place in front of him with his fist. This is a move he developed by combining the strange power he obtained and the empty palm of the Hyuga family. The power is amazing, but the disadvantage is also very obvious. Once this group of chakra leaves his 10-meter range, the power will drop sharply. It doesn't even take 20 meters for it to be basically threatening. Boom! Exclamation mark. An even more deafening explosion sounded, and circles of air ripples visible to the naked eye spread out, leaving only a blue figure in the original place. "You bastard, I'm going to kill you." Looking at the furious Raikage, Dong Shilang was also helpless. When he came up with this name, he didn't think of the 80 Gods air attacks, but Feng Bao Bao's 18 styles in under one person. Originally, he was planning to find an opportunity to spar with Tsunade and let the other party appreciate this move, but he didn't expect that the first time he used it was against the rough man Raikage. It's really disgusting. It's not certain who will kill whom. He tore off his already tattered clothes. Without this thing in the way, Dong Shilang felt that he seemed to be closer to nature, although he felt good after removing the restraints on his body. The style of the painting at this time, only under the cold moonlight. Whether it was the Raikage or Dong Shilang, the two big men were bare-chested and glared at each other. If it weren't for the land and forest that were severely damaged in the field, those who didn't know would think that these were two gays, performing some unsightly drama here. I have to say that fighting with Lord Raikage was the most exciting battle I've ever had in my life. Dong Shilang did not use any magic, illusion, or eye techniques this time. Even his ninjutsu was a close combat technique of super strength or punching. He even gave up the Uchiha's usual exquisite and gorgeous physical techniques, and only used those big and powerful techniques. Fighting with his opponent with his strongest power and fastest speed, he felt a kind of pleasure that he could never experience in his previous life in the materialistic urban steel jungle. Chapter 356, Unmatched Ninjutsu. I have to say, your Konoha is really blessed. First there was Minato Namike's, And then there was someone like you. Minato Namikaze was enough to surprise him, but he didn't expect that the other party would die in the Nine Tails Rampage incident. Moreover, it has not been long since then, and another Uchiha Toshiro has emerged in Konoha, but fortunately, their cloud ninja is not bad. Any last words? If not, I will kill you directly next. Looking at Toshiro on the opposite side, the Raikage's expression was a little complicated. It would be great if the other party was a descendant of the Cloud Ninja. Whether it was the strength or the fighting style of the other party, it was very suitable for his appetite. Unlike fighting with Minato Namikaze's skills were too strong. When fighting with the other party, he often felt a little bit at a loss. When he punched, it felt like he was punching the air. Fighting with this Uchiha Toshiro was another feeling. He could shed his sweat without any scruples. When he punched, the other party would respond with a stronger punch. This kind of battle is not something you can experience when you are sparring with a sparring partner. Click, click. He twisted his neck, just as the Raikage was about to attack. Is this a retreat signal? Looking at the light in the distance that almost illuminated the area for several kilometers, Toshiro was a little surprised. In the direction of the Konoha camp, 2 red and 1 green, 3 lights shone in the night sky. Now, Zetsunai Ulele hot knife. Seeing that the opponent was a little distracted, the 4th Raikage did not hesitate at all, clenched his right fist and raised his arm horizontally, and then his figure disappeared from the spot and appeared less than 5 meters in front of Toshiro, and continued to advance. Behind Toshiro, there was another figure who performed the same ninjutsu as the Raikage to sneak attack. Needless to say, it was Killer Bee who came to support after saving Yukito. What a pity. It is really a pity that such a nearly perfect opponent died in his own hands, but who made him have no brothers? Cooperating with Killer Bee to perform the Thunder Plow and Hot Blade, the Raikage was very confident. His current speed, based on his original speed, has been raised several levels again. The cooperation of 2 people can not only speed up both sides, but also form a restraining magnetic field between him and Killer Bee, so that the enemy can't avoid their attacks at all. The opponent wants to escape or perform ninjutsu, but it is too late. He is confident that no one in the ninja world can escape this move except for Minato Namikaze, who uses time and space ninjutsu. Go to hell. The Raikage came in front of Toshiro and looked at Toshiro, who was still calm. He thought that the opponent had not reacted yet, and without any hesitation, he swung his right arm. It was an honor for the opponent to die under the cooperation of himself and Killer Bee. Invincible wind and fire wheel. Just when the Raikage and Killer Bee were about to rush to Toshiro's side, a red and blue chakra light ball with a radius of 3 meters suddenly appeared in front of him. Unprinted ninjutsu? At this time, the opponent actually has a means of defense. Although it was beyond his expectation, he could not stop at this time. ZZ. Wow, boom. As the Raikage and Killer Bee collided with this rapidly rotating ball of light, bursts of sizzling electric currents, wind blades cutting objects at high speed, and the sound of flames burning fiercely mixed together. Crack, crack, crack. Not long after, a series of crackling sounds came, as if something was slowly breaking under the heavy load. Crash. With the sound of porcelain breaking, the invincible wind and fire wheel launched by Dong Shilang finally couldn't withstand the double thunder plow hot knives of the Raikage and Killer Bee. It broke apart, revealing the figure of Dong Shilang. Puff. A slight muffled sound came, which sounded a bit like the sound of a head falling to the ground. However, the Raikage and Killer Bee who stopped their figures did not have any smiles of success at all, but instead looked behind a big tree beside them with a solemn expression. Bang! Sure enough, a puff of smoke dispersed, leaving only a broken wooden stake on the spot. The invincible wind and fire wheel bought him time to perform the substitution technique. This ninjutsu? The Raikage did not have any regrets about his failed sneak attack, and there was nothing strange about the other party performing the substitution technique. Instead, he looked at Dong Shilang with a puzzled look on his face. The invincible wind and fire wheel that the other party had just performed always gave him a sense of déjà vu. It was like the Kaiden of the Hyuga clan, but also a bit like another ninjutsu. TSK. I didn't expect that the famous Raikage would also do sneak attacks. It's really surprising. Looking at the puzzled Raikage, Dong Shilang did not explain the meaning of this ninjutsu to the other party, but instead mocked him. Just now, when Killer Bee touched behind him, he did not find any clues. He really deserves to be a ninja killer. He suddenly cooperated with the Raikage to launch a sneak attack. If he hadn't developed this unmarked defensive ninjutsu, he would have exposed his Meixiang today. Although this defensive ninjutsu is very similar to Hyuga's Kaden, there are some differences in the principles. This is a ninjutsu developed by Toshiro based on the Rasengan. However, unlike the Rasengan, which constrains the rotating storm in the center of the sphere, Toshiro makes the rotating storms rotate outwards in order to achieve a defensive effect. In order to enhance the power of this ninjutsu, Toshiro also added wind and fire chakras to it, which not only enhances the defense effect, but also harms the person who attacks this ninjutsu. For example, Killer Bee on the opposite side, unlike the Raikage who has the lightning release armor, Killer Bee, who does not specialize in the lightning release armor, has black and white patches on his body, looking a little embarrassed. As a ninja, you actually have the idea of a one-on-one duel. How naive. After being ridiculed by Toshiro, the Raikage directly retorted, but there was still a hint of embarrassment in his tone. Bai, are you okay? Let's work together to kill this guy. Since Bai is here, it means that Yukito is fine. With Bai's joining, it won't be a problem for the AB combination to kill the other party. No problem let apostrophe s kill this bastard together with Big Brother. Although he suffered some minor injuries, Kairabi didn't take it seriously. Instead, he was excited to fight with his big brother again. In order to express his excitement, after the rap, this guy didn't forget to show off his sexy steps and kept twisting his body. The Raikage's eyes jumped when he saw it. Chapter 357, New Blood Limit. Bai, go. After only giving an attack model, the Raikage started his attack again. He and Bai were almost able to communicate with each other, and they did not need to communicate more. The two sides could cooperate tacitly. Oh, big brother. Without continuing his rap, a thick tentacle grew out from behind Killer Bee, and attacked Toshiro's flank in an arc, fire style, great fireball jutsu without making any seals. He just opened his mouth, and a 7 or 8 meter orange yellow fireball, emitting scorching heat and burning light, rushed towards the tentacle next to him. After doing all this, Toshiro turned around to deal with the Raikage's attack. Another no-seal ninjutsu? Seeing that the other party performed this great fireball without making any seals, even with the Raikage's wide knowledge, he was a little surprised. Although this great fireball jutsu is not very powerful, the fact that it does not require any seals greatly increases the practicality of this ninjutsu. Although it can't cause any harm to them, it can definitely play a role in blocking and harassing them. Although he can ignore this ninjutsu, how many people in the ninja world can ignore this kind of ninjutsu like him? Even Killer Bee can't do this. That's it. After returning a punch to the Raikage, Toshiro looked calm. This unmarked great fireball can be said to be one of the results of his research on sealing techniques over the years. Unlike Orochimaru, who has always focused on forbidden techniques, Toshiro has focused his energy on attribute ninjutsu. After so many years of research, there are still some results. But it's a pity that only simple sea-level ninjutsu such as the Great Fireball and the Phoenix Flower Fire can be performed without a seal. Hot. Just when the Raikage was more certain that he was going to kill Toshiro on the opposite side, a faint smell of meat began to fill the air of the house. Damn bastard. Uncle Killer Bee is going to kill you. Without even saying his own rap, Toshiro's unmarked ninjutsu caught him off guard and burned him badly, especially his tentacles. They are almost cooked. You bastard. Idiot. Let you feel my seductive melody. Reaching his hand behind his back, the sound of a large number of ninja swords coming out of their sheaths came over, and in this metallic humming sound, there was also the other party's tongue-twisting rap. This guy didn't take it seriously for 3 seconds, and started his own performance again, using his elbows, armpits, knees and his own mouth to catch the ninja swords. Kairabi exerted force on one leg, and the whole person jumped into the air, and his body rotated at high speed to kill Tawashiro. Arakuragi Sagittarius. While he was still in the air, a number of ninja swords shot towards Tawashiro, and Kairabi used the centrifugal force of high-speed rotation to shoot his ninja swords at Tawashiro. Looking at these 4 ninja swords that blocked his escape route, Tawashiro was just about to open his mouth to spit out another fireball to interrupt the opponent's attack. Yilei Shenfuleizu, the Raikage who had just completed an attack, came to his head, raised his right foot high, and interrupted Dong Shulang's thoughts. Although the fireball could block Killer Bee's attack, it obviously couldn't stop the Raikage with the thunder release armor. He twitched his mouth, dealing with these 2 tigers at the same time, even with his strength. If he didn't use the Mangekyo or the fairy technique, it would be really difficult. Invincible Wind Fire Wheel used this ninjutsu again to buy himself time, and Dong Shulang's hands did not stop. Fire Release, Dust Hiding Technique cast a large range of smoke to buy himself a breath of time. Dong Shulang stood 30 meters away and looked at the 2 enemies opposite and felt a little tricky. These 2 people not only cooperated well, but also were the kind of high attack, high speed, and high defense ninjas. Moreover, the 2 people together can also cover each other and each can attack without scruples. And just from this simple fight, he found that when these 2 people cooperated with each other, they could also bring a certain degree of speed increase to each other, especially when the 2 of them rushed towards one point. Their speed was quite amazing. Want to escape? I advise you not to have such naive thoughts. In front of me and by, no one can escape safely. Except the dead Namikaze Minato. Seeing that Tawashiro had pulled away, the Raikage did not rush to attack, but instead blew the 4th Hokage. Don't be so sure. Maybe I'm the second person besides the 4th Hokage. Reaching out of his ninja tool bag and taking out a special kunai, Tawashiro responded to the Raikage in a light tone without any panic. Humphrey, I admit that your strength greatly exceeded my expectations. If I or I were alone, it would be impossible to leave you behind. But with the cooperation of brothers, the 2 of us are confident that we can defeat any enemy. As the son of the 3rd Raikage, he has the right to be proud. The ab combination has never failed except for Namikaze Minato. Everything has its surprises, just like me. Tawashiro didn't take the Raikage's words seriously, but held the kunai in his hand and cast his eyes on the Raikage, or the lightning armor on the Raikage. In fact, after so many years of practice, I have also developed a new bloodline limit. Today I met the Raikage, and I can just test its sharpness. I just don't know if the 4th Raikage's lightning armor is as indestructible as your father's. Reborn in the ninja world, although he has one of the strongest bloodline limits, the Sharingan, Tawashiro still couldn't help but develop a bloodline limit of his own. Although this bloodline limit is somewhat different from the orthodox bloodline limit, he is quite satisfied with its power. Break my lightning armor? What an arrogant idea. I admit that there is still a gap between me and my father, but the lightning armor of the Raikage cannot be broken by a mere bloodline limit. If any newly developed bloodline limit could break the lightning armor of the Raikage, they would no longer have to survive in the ninja world. I hope your ninjutsu is as big as your tone. Looking at the confident Raikage, Tawashiro did not make any more sarcastic remarks. Apart from anything else, you can't even handle Amaterasu, and you're still bragging to me. No one else can do that. Focusing his attention on the special kunai in his hand, Tawashiro began to control his chakra to change. Then, a green, translucent chakra-like flowing water attached to the kunai in Tawashiro's hand. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Frost Sky. Under the bright moonlight, a transparent longsword composed of chakra flashes with a blue light, transparent and flawless, as if it is carefully crafted from a perfect piece of jade, exuding a mysterious and charming color. The whole sword body is breathtakingly beautiful. The lines are smooth and powerful, like a meteor across the sky, making it impossible to look away. Under the watery moonlight, the sword body exudes a cold and mysterious luster, as if it is a mysterious light from the junction of the sea and the sky. Gently waving the long sword, it seems that you can feel its cold and hard texture, as well as its indescribable sharpness. Its sword edge flashes coldly in the moonlight, as if telling you, no matter when and where, as long as you wave it, it can cut off all obstacles for you. It's beautiful, isn't it? Staring at the gorgeous light in his hand, Dong Shulang's cold Sharingan exudes a hint of softness. Swish. With a gentle swing, a sound as thin as a mosquito's whistle was heard, and then the tree next to Tawashiru that several people could hug together made a creaking sound and fell to the side. Combined with the smooth cut on the stump and Tawashiru's careless attitude just now, the sharpness of this long sword composed entirely of chakra can be seen. This is my most perfect work, combining the piercing and high-frequency vibration of lightning escape, the sharpness of wind escape and the bloodline limit of cutting. Even if it is a lightning escape armor, I have the confidence to cut it with the strongest sword. Ever since fighting with Meixiang, he had the idea of developing a bloodline limit of his own. After nearly 3 years of hard work, his efforts finally paid off. Using yin escape to shape, he perfectly combined wind and lightning, two violent and uncontrollable attributes. Although there are still some flaws, it cannot cover up its sharpness. The strongest sword. You are so arrogant. Looking at the long sword in Tawashiru's hand, although the Raikage refused to admit it, his serious expression showed that he was cautious. The opponent's blood limit didn't seem to be easy to deal with, but he had absolute confidence in his lightning armor. Let's fight. Crash. Just as the Raikage said to fight, there were bursts of soil-breaking sounds from behind Tawashiru. A flesh-colored tentacle, through the cover of the earth, quietly came behind Tawashiru and tried to sneak attack Tawashiru. Hiss. There was a sound of air being cut by a sharp object, and then the tentacle quickly began to shrink, leaving only half of the octopus leg. Bang! A puff of smoke dissipated, and the octopus leg also disappeared. Brother, be careful. The sword in this guy's hand is very special. After using his tentacles to personally feel the sharpness of the long sword in the other party's hand, Killer Bee was no longer in the mood to play tricks. His tone was extremely serious. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly entered the tailed beast state 1 and was ready to enter the state 2 at any time. Step forward and stab. Break. However, his reminder was obviously a little late. For a high-speed ninja like the Raikage, a distance of 30 meters would not take a breath. He had already rushed in front of Tawashiru, and Tawashiru was not polite. He directly stabbed the Raikage's heart with a sword. Hiss. The humming sound of the air sounded again. This time it was not as light as before. As the sound became louder, it was also mixed with a noisy squeaking sound. Bang! There was a sound of a heavy object hitting the ground, and then the golden barbell that the Raikage had been wearing on his arm fell directly to the ground with a dull sound. Want to leave? It's not that easy. Seeing the livid Raikage trying to distance himself from him, how could Tawashiru let him go so easily? He exerted force on his feet and followed the Raikage's steps, while the long sword in his hand was also extending at a very fast speed. Hit. Feeling the different and unstoppable cutting feeling of the long sword in his hand, Tawashiru did not hesitate at all, nor did he worry about the consequences of killing the opponent here. He exerted force on his hands and let the long sword pierce straight into the hole just opened, trying to kill this difficult opponent with one blow, or at least seriously injure the opponent. Brother, but things often don't go as planned. Although Tawashiru's sword broke through the Raikage's lightning armor, and the long sword that continued to extend also touched the Raikage's skin, the troublemaker always appears at the critical moment of the development of things. Killer Bee, wearing red transparent chakra, burst out with a speed that was not inferior to the Raikage and appeared in front of Tawashiru. Moreover, the tail behind the opponent was carrying a sharp ninja sword and attacking Tawashiru. It's really the style of the Cloud Ninja. Looking at Killer Bee, who didn't care about the outcome of the Raikage at all and was ready to take advantage of his attention on the Raikage to kill him directly, Tawashiru had to retract his attack. I have to say, Your intuition is really strong. He was not afraid of the opponent using any means to resist his long sword. If there was any obstruction, he would just cut it with a sword. Nothing could stop the sharpness of Frost Sky. That's right, he named his bloodline limit Frost Sky, on the one hand to commemorate his own name. Hiranmaru is not very suitable for the name Frost Sky. Another reason is the color of the bloodline limit, as well as some of its properties, so Toshiro didn't call it something like escape. After all, wind and thunder are too difficult to control chakra attributes. Although he successfully shaped them with his superb yin escape, it is different from the general blood escape technique. He can't use it like a ninjutsu, but can only attach it to some weapons. Increase. Facing the sword that Killer Bee was stabbing at his vital points, Toshiro did not choose to dodge, but burst his chakra, causing the size of the long sword in his hand to begin to increase dramatically. With the burst of his chakra, the long sword in his hand did not extend its length this time, but widened its width, and Toshiro waved this long sword that seemed like a door panel and slapped it in the direction of Killer Bee. Ding ding ding, a chaotic crisp sound. All the swords that Killer Bee was attacking were fanned away. Toshiro raised the long sword in his hand and slashed at Killer Bee, who was stabbing with the sword. He believed that relying on the tailed beast coat in state 1 on the opponent, it was impossible to even block the edge of the Frost Sky, and the Raikage had just escaped from his attack at this time, and there was no time to rescue Killer Bee. Chapter 359, Tailed Beast Transformation. By the fourth Raikage had just escaped from Toshiro's attack, but he had no time to celebrate. His good brother was in danger. I was extremely nervous when he saw Toshiro holding up a chakra sword as wide as a door panel and about to swing it down. However, he had just distanced himself from Toshiro and could only watch all this without being able to do anything. Well done. Before Ai's painful expression was revealed, Killer Bee's response made him put his heart, which was about to jump out of his chest, back into his stomach. At this time, Killer Bee's bright red chakra surged all over his body, and then his image changed drastically, and he directly entered the second tailed beast state. A black and red chakra, like a thick layer of armor, wrapped his whole body, and 2 asymmetrical horns grew out of his head. One horn was complete, and the other was only half, without the tip. He did not stop his movements at this point. He could feel that although his chakra code was strong, it had a defensive power that was not inferior to the lightning armor. But facing the chakra sword in Toshiro's hand, he could not guarantee his own safety. The 8 tails behind him quickly rushed towards the weapon in Toshiro's hand, tightly wrapped around the sword, trying to stop the opponent's attack. Seeing the opponent's actions, how could Toshiro let the opponent do what he wanted? These tails condensed by the chakra of the tailed beasts could not block the sharpness of the Frost Sky in his hand. However, with the obstruction of these 8 tails, even if his bloodline limit was sharp, after being blocked by these 8 tails, it could no longer threaten Killer Bee. A sound like the flow of water came, and the sword in Toshiro's hand changed drastically. The whole sword body seemed to turn into a stream of water, quickly rushing towards Toshiro's arm and returning to his body again. The chakra sword in his hand shrank greatly in size and turned into an ordinary 3-foot-long sword. He cleverly turned several times in the air, using the suddenly smaller sword body, and did not touch the tails behind the opponent at all, and continued to stab Killer Bee. It turns out that Toshiro's bloodline limit can not only transform his chakra into a sharp sword, but also change its size at will according to the change of his chakra amount. This is not enough. The chakra on the sword can return to his body again, which greatly reduces the consumption of ninjutsu. First 8 swords. Just as Toshiro was about to change from slashing to stabbing and attack this guy, Killer Bee used the power and speed gained from the tailed beast coat in the second state to launch an attack that surprised Toshiro, and crashed directly into his arms. There is still some reason for everyone to tie the forehead guard on their heads. The so-called first 8 swords is a nice way of saying it, but it is actually a simple headbutt. Toshiro was a little dizzy by the opponent's sudden attack, and before he could come to his senses, a new threat had already appeared. Raikage, who had just dodged his attack, saw that his brother had successfully dealt with Toshiro's attack, and attacked him again. However, compared to his previous recklessness, He was much more cautious when attacking this time, and his movements became more careful, with almost no flaws. Swish! Without taking care of his dizzy head, Toshiro once again manipulated his chakra to flow into his hands. With the influx of a large amount of chakra, the bloodline limiting his hand, which he named Shiroten, expanded again, and then he held it in his hand and swung it around his body. This interrupted I and Bai's subsequent offensive. Your bloodline limit. Nearly 20 meters away from Toshiro, the Raikage and Bai stood side by side, one wearing a blue lightning armor and the other wearing a tailed beast chakra coat. Neither of them rushed to attack Toshiro, but looked at the long sword in Toshiro's hand with a serious expression, wiping the blood on his chest. The Raikage had to admit that the opponent's bloodline limit was very unusual. Bai, be careful. Although the opponent's attack is sharp, it can only be attached to weapons, and the form is relatively simple. As long as we avoid the opponent's weapons, we have a chance to defeat him. Did you find it? You are right. This bloodline limit that I named Frost Sky can only be transformed into a sword blade through the chakra kunai in the hand. It is more like a secret technique than a bloodline limit. It has few advantages except for its sharpness. But it is precisely this peerless sharpness that I call it the strongest sword. It is not so easy to avoid the attack in his hand. Frost Sky, Humphrey, it is indeed as the other party said. In addition to its sharpness, this Frost Sky can only be considered a troublesome thing that can change its size. But these two characteristics make people extremely headache, especially the opponent can actually cut through the defense of the lightning release armor. It seems that I still have a long way to go to reach the level of my father. Well, it's not that the lightning release armor of their Raikage lineage is not strong enough, but his practice is not yet in place. Brother, this time it's my turn. Which one to use? Looking at the boy opposite, Killer Bee decided to transform directly into a tailed beast. Although this would make him more vulnerable to attack, he thought he could give it a try with the size of the 8 tails and the protection of his elder brother. After all, it wouldn't be a big deal if the 8 tails was hit by a few swords, but it would be troublesome if the 2 of them were hit by a few swords. 8 tails, let me show you my true form. After saying this, Killer Bee, without waiting for his elder brother's consent, directly began to use his strongest trump card and began to transform into a tailed beast. As he posed in a strange shape, flesh-colored octopus tentacles grew out from behind Killer Bee, and he also changed from a human form to the appearance of the 8 tails. It's really unethical. 2 against 1 is fine, but even this is not enough, and they continue to transform into a tailed beast. This is a bit unfriendly. Looking at the 8 tails on the opposite side, which was spewing 2 streams of burning white air from its nostrils, Toshiro twitched the corners of his mouth and could not help complaining. And his teammates, each of them is really weak. Look at others, they are both Raikage and 8 tails Jinchuriki, while on his side, there is no one who can do anything. In fact, he felt a long time ago that the Kumage cure is more in line with the temperament of the Uchiha. Konoha is always doing some will of fire and the like, which is really annoying. Look at the Kumage cure. When there is something wrong, the boss will take the lead and fight with you, while on his side. It is hard to describe. Chapter 360 Transformation. Darui, Yukido, is that the Uchiha Toshiro who defeated you? In the distance of the battlefield where Toshiro and Abi were fighting, nearly 3 kilometers away, Nodai looked at the movement here from afar, and began to ask Darui and Yukido beside him. Ah, he is a very, very troublesome guy. Darui, who had just rescued Yukido with Killer Bee, also looked at the battle situation in the distance and responded absent-mindedly. Has it reached the point where even the Raikage and Bee can't cooperate to defeat it? Looking at the tailed beast body that looked even bigger and more ferocious in the dark night, Nodai couldn't help but gasp. I didn't expect that the Raikage and Bee would directly use the tailed beast transformation when facing this guy. It seems that the enemy is not just difficult to deal with. Yukido, can you join the battle now? Since the Raikage had such a change, Dodai glanced at the people around him, and finally set his sights on Yukido. The only one who was able to go over and help was Yukido, the 2-tailed Jinchuriki. I'm so sorry, that bastard tampered with the iron seal, and the seal is not very strong, and Lu is now in a deep sleep and has no way to cooperate with me. Looking at Dodai's eyes, Yumoku felt a little ashamed. This time, because of her mistake, the Raikage and everyone else made a big fuss, and she could only be a spectator on the side. She felt a little uneasy. There is a problem with the seal, and the two-tail is sleeping. Hearing this answer, Dodai's face changed drastically. This is not good. If the two-tail suddenly wakes up and goes berserk, it will be a big trouble. Can the situation be maintained? And how is the two-tail now? The problem shouldn't be big, and the two-tail is not abnormal, but if the status quo is maintained for a long time, the situation will be hard to say. Lu has not made any unusual movements until now. As for the Iron Seal, she really doesn't know much about it. Let's wait until the Raikage defeats the enemy. With the Raikage in the bay here, Yumoku is not worried about the situation of the seal. It's better to wait until the Raikage has a result. Dodai, should we launch an attack? Should we just let the Raikage fight and we just watch from here? Akuron and Jonin next to him looked at the battle in the distance, then looked in the direction of the Konoha camp, unable to hold back his warlike blood, and asked his own question. Attack? Looking at the breach outside the Konoha camp in the distance, Dodai hesitated. Now the entire Konoha camp was in darkness, like a beast lurking quietly, opening its big mouth, waiting for the arrival of its prey. Let's wait. Wait until the Raikage defeat the enemy, and then he will decide whether to launch a general attack. The commander of the Konoha camp opposite was obviously not an easy guy to deal with. Dodai thought it would be better to wait until the Raikage finished the battle over there, and then let the other side decide whether to launch a general attack. With the cooperation of the Raikage, this camp would not be difficult to break through. The trouble was whether to go to war with Konoha afterwards, which they had to think about carefully. And in the Konoha camp opposite him, has the Hokage replied? Just as Dodai saw the eight tails, Shikaku also saw the changes on the battlefield in the distance. He was extremely grateful and asked the communications team next to him, if the reinforcements from the Hokage came too late, it would be a big question whether their camp would still be there. At the same time, he was extremely grateful that the eight tails Jinchuriki did not transform into a tailed beast directly in Konoha's camp. Otherwise only Chose could barely withstand it for a few seconds, and the rest of them were completely useless. It was really just a matter of holding on for a few seconds. Once the effect of the drug wore off, Chose could not withstand the fury of the tailed beast. I hope that Uchiha Toshiro can be stronger. Send an urgent letter to the Hokage again, report the situation here, and make it clear to them that if there is no reinforcement, whether our camp can still exist depends on the mood of the Raikage. There was no news from the Hokage yet, and he did not hold much hope for Toshiro. Shikaku could only urge the communication team again to continue to ask for help. At the same time, he began to think about whether Konoha should change to a younger Hokage. Looking at the resolute Raikage on the opposite side, and then looking at the slow support speed of the third generation on his side, Shikaku felt that the alliance between his three families and Sarutobi should be carefully considered. Ninjutsu? Summoning technique tried twice, trying to use his flexibility to approach the eight tails, but was intercepted by the Raikage. He jumped back a few times to avoid the tail of the eight tails. Toshiro decided to summon Chubemaru to deal with this huge guy. Although his frost sky can easily cut off the opponent's tentacles or tails, it can't withstand the opponent's tails that can proliferate almost infinitely. And with the cooperation of the Raikage, he has no way to cause great damage to the eight tails. Instead, he has to be careful of the eight tails attacks and the Raikage's surprise attacks. Lord Toshiro, even if it's me, every time I face an enemy of this level, it will be very difficult. Chubemaru, who just came out, looked at the eight tails on the opposite side and was really speechless. Last time it was the nine tails, this time it was the eight tails. Even if it is powerful, it can't withstand Toshiro's tossing. Stop talking nonsense. The opponent's attack is coming. Looking at the eight tails coming directly here, Toshiro didn't have time to appease Chubemaru, but began to urge the opponent to deal with the enemy. As for himself, he cast his eyes on the opposite side, the Raikage standing on the head of the eight tails. It seems that if we don't use some tricks, It will be difficult to deal with these two guys on the opposite side. Although Chibimaru is powerful, he is still a little insufficient to face the Eight Tails. It's okay for a short time, but if it lasts for a long time, he will be at a disadvantage. He still needs to cooperate with me. With one hand erected in front of him, with the index and middle fingers together, Toshiro formed a simple seal. Since the opponent just had more people fighting fewer people, even though he has called for help now, he still seems a little weak. In this case, he will have a good time with the opponent. Ninjutsu middle. Shadow clone middle. 3 heads and 6 arms. A light smoke dissipated, and Toshiro, who was standing on Chibimaru's head, also transformed at this time. He grew 2 heads and 4 arms again. Transformation is not only Yu Jinchuriki who can do it, Uchiha Toshiro is also very good at it. Chapter 361 Cooperation. He moved his neck and arms a little. Toshiro was still somewhat uncomfortable with the sudden appearance of multiple perspectives and the other 2 pairs of arms. Are you surprised? Looking at the stunned Raikage Killer Bee on the opposite side, Toshiro looked at them and explained, "It's just another use of the shadow clone technique." It is indeed another use of the shadow clone technique. After learning the Sage Mode, Toshiro thought about how he could maintain the Sage Mode for a long time. Although the shadow clone can do this, it still has its own shortcomings. Not only does it need to be prepared in advance, but there are also gaps in the middle. For this reason, he came up with the idea of developing this special version of the shadow clone with 3 heads and 6 arms. Not only can it be used to maintain its own sage state and sage mode, but the vision and thoughts of the 3 heads can also be shared, which can also play a certain role in ordinary battles. Even the arms can be regenerated by seals even if they are broken. You guys, you have a lot of weird ninjutsu. Even the well-informed Raikage, seeing Toshiro's shadow clone, couldn't help but marvel at his whimsicality. For ninjas like them who rely on close combat, ordinary high-level clones can basically not help. The rhythm and intensity of their battles are not something that clones can bear. But the opponent's 3 heads and 6 arms are a little different. It just has 2 more heads and arms, and the body still carries them. In this way, there will be no problem of insufficient strength in battle. Not only does it gain a 180-degree field of view, but it also has 2 more pairs of arms, which is really troublesome. If it is a ninjutsu-type ninja who is proficient in ninjutsu and has enough chakra, the combat power will be even greater. Go, Chibimaru. Without giving the Raikage more time to think, Toshiro, who has been suppressed by Killer Bee and the Raikage, directly let Chibimaru start attacking. At the same time, one of his 6 arms held a chakra long sword, and the other 5 arms each made a different hand seal. Fire style, Great Dragon Fire Technique Wind style, Vacuum Big Ball Lightning style, Pseudo Darkness Water style, High Pressure Water Gun Earth style, Rock Cannon. After several hand seals were formed, one attribute style of jutsu after another was used to attack the tailed beasts of Killer Bee and the Raikage on the opposite side. Moreover, these ninjutsu would be combined from time to time, which would greatly increase their own power while making it more difficult for the Raikage brothers on the opposite side to resist. With his current chakra amount, plus Chibimaru's share, this level of consumption is still bearable. Chibimaru, use the 3rd set of battle plans. Got it. After all, the opponent is a combination of the 8 Tails and the Raikage. It is basically impossible to defeat the opponent with just a few ninjutsu. Toshiro directly asked Chibimaru to use the battle plan that he and Chibimaru had prepared in advance. While Toshiro and the others were preparing, Killer Bee on the opposite side did not give in. He manipulated the body of the 8 Tails and directly waved his tail to block these annoying ninjutsu, while he used both hands to rush towards the opponent. From the perspective of the sky, we can see that 2 huge figures are approaching at a very fast speed, each taking a step, causing the earthquake to fluctuate. Now, seeing that the distance between the 2 sides is about the same, Toshiro did not hesitate, and the several arms that had just completed the seals formed seals at the same time, and the other 2 heads on his shoulders also opened their eyes wide. Earth Escape Middle. Light and Heavy Rock Technique Earth Escape Middle. Heavy Rock Technique Earth Escape Middle. Super Hardening Technique. After receiving Toshio's signal, Chibimaru, who was rushing forward, felt the change in his own chakra, and suddenly stretched out his front claws and tightly grasped the ground in front of him. Then the huge lizard made a very fancy move while sprinting at this high speed. The whole body carried a huge inertia, and with its front claws tightly grasping the ground as the fulcrum, it drifted 180 degrees. With the inertia brought by this drift, Chiubimaru's tail turned into a huge whip and whipped towards the eight-tailed beast on the opposite side. This huge lizard tail, when it was abstracted to Killer Bee, brought up a terrifying wind pressure, blowing down a large area of forest and breaking it, and also scraping off a layer of soil and moss on the ground. At the tip of the tail, a white sonic boom cloud visible to the naked eye was generated, causing the air nearby to emit waves of terrifying roars. This storm that was generated out of thin air was blown far away to the Konoha camp and the Cloud Ninja. No, I can't stop it. Not to mention Killer Bee, even the eight tails in his body and the Raikage on his body were stunned by Tawashiro's operation. The inertia brought by this huge creature when sprinting is simply unimaginable. The opponent can actually cooperate with the summoned beast under him to launch such an attack. The difficulty is simply unimaginable, especially the opponent's front paw stretched forward, trying to hold the ground tightly in this situation, as a support axis to bear the inertia of drifting, to withstand this pressure while being able to hold the ground tightly. The chakra involved in the tie control is terrifying. Is it because of the opponent's unique shadow clone that controls everything for it? Now is not the time to think about these questions. They have to find a way to dodge. But if they want to dodge at this time, they can only make some simple adjustments, and they can't completely avoid the opponent's attack. Boom! Exclamation mark! A loud noise that almost made everyone present lose their hearing came. And then all the ninjas present shook their dazed heads almost at the same time and cast their eyes to the distance. Everyone opened their mouths and could hardly believe their eyes. Even though they were 2 or 3 kilometers away, even though the night was dark, the excellent vision brought by chakra to these ninjas still allowed them to see the battle scene in the distance clearly with a not very bright moonlight. Quick! Organize an elite team and prepare to go over to support the Raikage. Cloud Ninja Dodai almost jumped out of his mouth word by word, and after saying that, he did not forget to say to another high-ranking Cloud Ninja in the camp, Rya, the next step is up to you. Prepare to retreat. No one expected that such an accident would occur when the AB combination attacked at the same time. Although the battle was not over yet, from his perspective, the Raikage was already at a disadvantage. The ferocity of the opponent's attack just now allowed him to glimpse the power of the opponent's attack even from a distance. Chapter 362. Beat the dog when it's down. A brown tail with a layer of dark black light. It drew an irregular arc and spun towards Killer Bee's tailed beast body. Bang! A burst of white bubbles visible to the naked eye blocked the view of the onlookers. Neither Tawashiro's Sharingan nor the ninjas watching from a distance could see the specific scene. They could only see a huge meatball flying diagonally in the air in a posture they had never seen before. It was drawing a beautiful parabola and falling towards the forest in the distance. This is really exaggerated. Seeing the true face of the meatball flying high in the sky and doing free fall in the distance, Shikaku muttered to himself almost like a groan. It's not that Nara Shikaku is surprised by what he has seen, but the visual impact caused by this home run is really too shocking. You have to know that what is flying in the air is not some small cat or dog, but a tailed beast, and it is the eight-tailed beast among the tailed beasts. Chiubimaru, take the 5th attack plan. After the first attack, Tawashiro did not give Killer Bee a chance to catch his breath, but urged Chiubimaru again to attack according to the new plan. Chiubimaru was also very excited at this time, and he whipped his tail uncontrollably, destroying the surviving trees on the ground. His tail just now was not just a simple whip on the opponent. Tawashiro used his chakra to superimpose the hardening technique and the weighted draw technique on it. It felt that with this tail, let alone the 8 tails, even if it was the 9 tails, it would be able to teach the opponent to be a new person. No, to be a new tailed beast. Earth style. Super Rock Cannon. Chiubimaru showed a pitiful look in the direction of the 8 tails, and rushed towards Killer Bee, who had smashed a huge pit in the ground in the distance. He opened his huge mouth and spit out a huge stone ball with a diameter of nearly 20 meters and smashed it towards the opponent. All these ninjutsu attacks were completed by the hand seals of Toshiro on his body. Together with this ninjutsu, there was also the aggravated rock technique, which did not require it to control. While the opponent Killer Bee had not yet recovered, their ninjutsu attacks were launched one after another towards the opponent. "You damn bastard!" A blue electric light rushed towards Toshiro, or Chiubimaru, and it was the Raikage who was thrown out by Killer Bee before the attack was about to hit him. Useless work. Looking at I, whose eyes were about to burst, Toshiro did not make any extra moves. At this time, the two pairs of arms on his shoulders and under his armpits had completed the hand seals. A large number of B and C level ninjutsu, although not of high level, were powerful, and smashed towards the opponent. It seemed that he felt that this might not be a big threat to I, and Toshiro raised a long sword in his hand and swung it towards I. Swish. As Toshiro swung the sword, a blue-green sword energy slashed towards I. Although his bloodline limit cannot have a variety of changes like ninjutsu, it can manipulate the size at will and can also swing out his chakra. "I will not let you succeed even if I risk my life." Looking at Toshiro and Chiubimaru rushing towards Killer Bee, I had to buy some breathing time for his brother no matter what. Looking at the ninjutsu performed by Toshiro, he did not hesitate and directly ran into it, intending to rely on the lightning armor to resist this wave of attacks. However, after he passed through the ninjutsu bombardment composed of flames, wind blades, and flowing water, a blue-green sword light appeared in front of him. You can actually swing out such a slash. I did not expect that the opponent actually had such a method, but the attack was already approaching, and he could only choose to resist it. This is also the helplessness of melee ninjas like them, because their own attack speed is too fast, and many of the opponent's attacks can only be resisted, and they can't dodge at all. Squeak. After a chaotic electric sound, the Raikage with his arms crossed in front of him appeared again. But compared to before, there was a slanting red mark on his body, extending from his right shoulder to his left hip. Hiss. There was a sound of blood spurting, followed by a clang of a heavy object falling to the ground. The strongest sword is really sharp. Looking at the wound on his body and the dumbbell-shaped wristguard that was broken in half again on the ground. Fortunately, this thing blocked it, otherwise he would be in danger this time. Even so, he was seriously injured now. Just when I was about to go up to stop Dong Shilang, who had swung a sword, didn't have time to care about the Raikage's current thoughts. He directly drove Chiubimaru and continued to rush towards Kairabi's position. As the saying goes, it's better to kill him when he's sick. If you don't beat the dog when it's down, when will you? If the sky recovers, I guess I'll be the one who suffers. On the other side, Kairabi, who had just been beaten by Chiubimaru, looked at the deep mark plowed in front of him, shook his head, and hadn't come back to his senses. The opponent's tail was too abnormal. Not only was it powerful, but after being enhanced by Toshiro's ninjutsu, it was really big, thick, black and heavy. Even if he wanted to resist, he couldn't. "Bye, you are in a bad condition now, let me do it." Just when Killer Bee's mind was still in a state of confusion, the 8 tails in his body spoke. Killer Bee was dizzy now. How could he fight the enemy? "No, it's okay. I can still hold on." Killer Bee made a staccato sound, but unlike his previous rap, which was staccato for the sake of rhyme, this time he couldn't even speak clearly. He was also confused by Toshiro's attack, and he still couldn't control his body normally. "Bye, get out of the way." As soon as the voice of the 8 tails fell, the anxious voice of the 8 tails reached his heart. "Be careful." Before Killer Bee could figure out the situation, he saw a stone mountain bigger than the house smashing towards him. Really, he wanted to dodge, but at this time his whole body was in a state of dizziness. Not to mention dodging, he couldn't even twitch his tail. Switch. Before he could say a word, the stone mountain that was flying towards him fell down, and Kairabi didn't even make a move to continue struggling, and he fainted. Chapter 363 Bull Ghost. Although Killer Bee was unconscious, his tailed beast transformation was not lifted. "Roar, Uchiha brat, Do you know how painful it is? Although Killer Bee was unconscious, he had completed the action of changing people before he fell unconscious. Now the one who controlled the body had been replaced by the Eight Tails. However, the Eight Tails was also unlucky. Just after taking over the body, before he had time to stretch his hands and feet, a mountain of stone hit it. It really had no martial ethics at all. What's more, this mountain of stone was superimposed with the rock village's aggravated rock technique. It took this blow head on, and before it could recover, a series of stone mountains drew parabolas and hit it. It was simply endless. Continuous tailed beast balls. Unlike Killer Bee, who was somewhat cautious and worried about accidental injuries, the Eight Tails was a bit unscrupulous when it came on the field. Facing the mountain of stone that came one after another, it directly released its ultimate move. Although it was not the kind of tailed beast ball that was fully condensed, it had few options to buy time to block these attacks. Boom, 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 boom. 4 tailed beast balls in a row blew up the super-enlarged and enhanced version of the rock cannon that Toshiro brought over, that is, the stone mountains, into flying dust. The Eight Tails was still unwilling to give up, and once again aimed its eyes at Toshiro and Chibimaru in the distance. At the same time, the 5th and 6th tailed beast balls also blasted towards Toshiro and Chibimaru. As for the wreckage, I'm sorry, the opponent was too small, and it didn't see it. It's really troublesome. Looking at the tailed beast balls coming towards him one by one, Toshiro had to treat them with caution. This is also the difficult part of Killer Bee. In normal state, Killer Bee is a cage-level strongman. When he entered State 1, it was okay, but his speed, strength and chakra were slightly increased. When he entered State 2, this increase was further increased. At the same time, the tailed beast coat in State 2 would also bring him a very strong layer of defense. After the tailed beast is transformed directly, a large-scale ninja army will be needed to deal with it, and in this state, he can also change people. There is a world of difference between the Jinchuriki controlling the chakra of the tailed beast and the tailed beast controlling its own chakra. Ninjutsu middle. Summoning technique middle. 5-layer Rashomon. He took a deep breath. Even now, when he performed the 5-layer Rashomon, he still felt that his body was hollowed out, which shows how much consumption this ninjutsu consumes. It makes sense that the first generation can suppress Madara-sama. With a rumbling and dull sound, 5 consecutive giant portals, which are not much inferior to the tailed beasts, broke through the rock and soil layer and stood in front of Toshiro and Chibimaru. Speaking of which, I have to thank Uncle Snake. The deal we made with him in the Land of Water last time was not a loss. Boom, boom. There was a violent explosion. Seeing that there was still a Rashomon that did not collapse, the Uchiha was not too angry. Rashomon, what a familiar move. With a slight sigh, the Uchiha didn't take this familiar ninjutsu too seriously. As long as the opponent was not Senju Hashirama, the Uchiha would not be afraid. He simply opened his big mouth, condensed a ball of blue-black chakra, and then swallowed it into his mouth. Since the small-tailed beast ball couldn't kill the opponent, just a big one would be enough. In the simple mind of the Uchiha, there was nothing that the tailed beast ball couldn't solve, except that man. Boom! Exclamation mark! A roar that was even more shocking than the previous one came, followed by a dazzling white light, illuminating the night sky within a radius of dozens of miles as bright as day. When the night fell on the battlefield again, the smoke and dust dissipated, and what came into the eyes of the Uchiha was the shadow of Rashomon, and the original place was empty. Even the figures of Toshiro and Chibimaru disappeared. Did he kill it? Unexpectedly fragile. Looking at the empty battlefield, the Uchiha was a little surprised. Although his tailed beast ball was extremely powerful, it should not be enough to directly wipe the opponent off the map. It should be that the summoning has been cancelled. The smoke and light raised by the explosion of the tailed beast ball were too dazzling, so it could not see the changes behind Rashomon clearly. However, it was not naive to think that it had smashed the opponent into pieces with just one tailed beast ball. It should have cancelled the summoning and then used its petite advantage to hide. However, this was not surprising. After all, it was facing the Uchiha, so it was normal to have such a result. Woo-oo! Just as the Uchiha widened his eyes and prepared to find the hidden Toshiro, A series of whimpering sounds from the compressed hair reached its ears. But when he turned around and looked at the place where the sound came from, there was nothing. What? Before the Ushiki could say a word, a sharp pain came from its face, and then it felt like flying, or being whipped away. The Ushiki felt that he was whipped by the wooden dragon of Senju Hashirama again, and he was a little confused about his current state. Could it be that I was caught in this Uchiha's illusion? I heard that the Nine Tails was caught in it and was beaten badly. Could it be that I am now in the illusion world of the Sharingan? But it hurts so much. Before the Ushiki could figure out whether it was reality or illusion, the Ushiki, who had just escaped from gravity and was in free fall, saw a vague figure running towards him. Is this Earth escape invisibility? Looking at this blurry figure that seemed to blend into the air and could not be distinguished without careful observation, the Ushiki finally figured out the reason. But how could such a large area of Earth escape invisibility be hidden from his eyes? Seeing the Ushiki's gaze cast towards him, the figure that was originally covered by a hazy light and shadow and seemed a little blurry, immediately showed up. It was the missing Tawashiro and Chibimaru. Since the other party had discovered their figures, there was no need for them to waste energy hiding their own tracks. They directly appeared and attacked the Ushiki. Looking from the sky, Chibimaru's whole body was rolled into a circle, and then it spun several times along the center of the circle, using centrifugal force to swing its tail out. The target was the Ushiogui, who was about to fall to the ground. Facing this attack, the Ushiogui had no good solution. The opponent's timing was too good, and it was just when he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Moreover, as soon as he was discovered, the attack came one after another. Even if it wanted to launch the tailed beast ball, it was too late at this time. It could only curl up into a ball and try to wrap itself up with its tail to resist the opponent's next attack. Chapter 364 Growth. Konoha at night was peaceful and tranquil. Incompatible with this peacefulness was the brightly lit Hokage building. Even in the dead of night, one or two ninjas would come in and out in a hurry. They would bring news from the front line or pass on the orders from the Hokage to the ninjas in the village. Looking back at the night view of Konoha, the third Hokage sighed heavily, then left his office with a heavy face and walked towards a quiet courtyard in the village. This courtyard was in a remote location with no neighbors around. In the cold winter wind, it gave people a sense of loneliness and alienation for no reason. Knock, knock, knock. After hesitating for a long time outside the door, the third Hokage finally knocked on the door of the courtyard. Creak. A friction sound that seemed a bit harsh on the winter night came, and the owner of the house showed up. Under the light from the house, it was only possible to make out that the owner who opened the door was a woman with a curvaceous figure and long hair. Kushina ... Excuse me. Looking at the red-haired beauty who opened the door for him, the Sandaime Hokage opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. It's the Sandaime-sama, please come in. Seeing that it was the Sandaime Hokage who knocked on the door, Kushina was not surprised at all. Facing the Sandaime Hokage who came late at night, her expression did not change at all. It was as if she was not in front of the leader of Konoha, but an ordinary old man. As soon as she entered the door, she saw a comfortable living room. The soft sofa, the pillow embroidered with fox masks, the thick carpet, and the corner of the coffee table with hemming all exuded a warm atmosphere. In the corner of the living room, there is a cute children's area, which is filled with all kinds of toys that children like. A colorful children's tent, like a small castle, provides a private play space for children. On the other side, a comfortable rocking chair faces a bookshelf, which is filled with all kinds of books and stories that children like. There is also a warm floor lamp, which illuminates the whole corner, as if inviting children to come and read and listen to stories. This home is a warm little world, full of maternal care and the breath of life. Is Naruto okay? Has he slept yet? Sitting on the sofa, holding the hot tea brewed by Kushina in his hand, the Sandaime did not get straight to the point as soon as he entered the door, but asked about the child's situation. Well, I just finished telling him a story, and now he is asleep. As soon as she mentioned Naruto, Kushina's face couldn't help but exude a gentle smile. Kushina ... You have grown up. Looking at the smile on the other's face, the Sandaime was a little dazed, as if recalling a memory from a long time ago, and muttered to himself, "People always have to grow up, and I am Naruto's mother now, and I have to set a good example." Kushina was silent for a while about the Sandame's words, and spoke lightly. The tone was calm and the expression was indifferent. Even the Sandame Hokage could not get more information from the other party's tone and expression. Is this still the little girl who showed her emotions on her face and was lawless? It's really incredible growth. Sandame, the affairs of the village are so busy now. How do you have time to come to my small place? Since the death of Minato Namikaze, she moved to this somewhat remote place with little Naruto and lived a semi-secluded life. It's not that she took the initiative to do this. Living in the original downtown area, this allows Naruto to contact more children of the same age, which is conducive to his growth. It's just that the last Nine Tails incident, although the damage caused was not very exaggerated, there were still some casualties among the ninjas and civilians in Konoha village. I don't know how her identity as the Nine Tails Jinchuriki was leaked, which will have some impact on the child's growth. For this reason, she moved here with Naruto. Usually, she also tries to stay at home as much as possible. It's about the Kuro ninja. This time, the fourth Hokage, the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, and the Two Tails Jinchuriki are all concentrated at the border of Konoha to confront us. Our high-end combat power is slightly insufficient. After a long silence, the third Hokage still told Kushina the purpose of his visit this time. He really regretted it now. He shouldn't have sent Uchiha Toshiro to the front line. This guy caught the Two Tails Jinchuriki as soon as he went there, and then attracted the fourth Hokage and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. That's not all. He also had to take the Uzumaki scroll. He regretted it when he thought about it. I know. After a short silence, Kushina didn't say much and agreed directly. It's okay to go to the front line, but what about Naruto's safety? As a mother, she is very sensitive. Coupled with her special perception ability, she can feel the gaze of the Nine Tails secretly watching her, or in other words, the gaze of the Nine Tails in her body. If she wasn't around, if something happened to Naruto, she would regret it, and she couldn't help but look at the Sandame Hokage. Don't worry, I will take care of Naruto personally during this period. I will never let Naruto get hurt. Pressing down his bamboo hat and avoiding Kushina's gaze, the Sandame continued, "This time, I let you go, mainly to serve as a deterrent. We will sign a peace agreement with the Cloud Ninja soon." After getting the assurance from the Sandame Hokage, Kushina was relieved. As for why she agreed to leave Naruto behind to go to the front line, because she knew that the person who protected her was no longer there, and as a Jinchuriki, she wanted to gain a foothold in the village and protect Naruto at the same time so that he could grow up happily. This is not something that can be done verbally. Shikaku has the Flying Thunder God mark. I will arrange for Xoanjian and the others to take you over. Flying Thunder God. Hearing this familiar ninjutsu again, Kushina's eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and she thought of Minato with a sunny smile again. Unfortunately, the other party chose to sacrifice himself in order to keep himself alive. I know, we can go after a little preparation. After calming down, Kushina didn't immerse herself in her memories for too long, and started packing her things directly. Thank you for your hard work. If possible, he really didn't want to come and disturb Kushina's life. The last time Minato happened, he already felt very guilty. However, Shikaku's urgent letters for help one after another forced him to come and disturb the other's peaceful life. If only the fourth Hokage was still here. Thinking of the current situation in the ninja world, the undercurrents surging in the village, and Uchiha Toshiro, this troublesome person. He recalled more than once that it would be great if it was not the young fourth Hokage who sacrificed last time, but himself. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365 Fire Tornado. Snap. There was a crisp sound of a whip hitting the cowhide. As soon as the Ushiki touched the ground, Chibimaru hit him hard again. Combined with the last time, it felt what Karabi had just felt. Even with its size, It felt dizzy after being hit by 2 big blows from the opponent. Chiyobimaru, oh, having experienced the pleasure of bullying, Chiyobimaru now obeyed Dong Shilang's words and directly produced a large amount of chakra. Dong Shilang, who was standing on top of it, prepared his 3 heads and arms. Water style, oil transformation fire style, dragon fire technique wind style, vacuum/wind style, tornado storm. Standing less than 3 body lengths away from the Ushiki, the extremely excited Chiyobimaru opened his bloody mouth directly, and a column of oil with a dim yellow hue, transformed from water attribute chakra, sprayed towards the Ushiki, like a newly opened oil well in Dong Shilang's previous life. The 3 heads of Dong Shilang were emitting flames and storms, which were attached to these flammable liquids. He was not satisfied with this, and he added a lot of wind blades to it, making it even more difficult for the Ushiki to resist. Wow! As Dong Shilang's middle head opened its mouth and spit out a stream of burning fire, it landed on the oil column that Chiyobimaru had sprayed out. Then a storm and a lot of wind blades, which were a step slower, landed on the Ushiki with the high-temperature burning oil, and the changes have not stopped. Those wind blades were fine. They just made some wounds on the Ushiki that were not too serious for the Ushiki. The real trouble was the storms. They were not simply mixed in the oil, but formed a tornado next to the Ushiki that just trapped up the Ushiki. In the face of this attack, the Ushiki, who had just come to his senses, had no other choice but to continue to wrap himself up with his tail, trying to use this method to help himself withstand this attack. As for launching the 8 volumes of the tailed beast, it was not really an idiot. So, the night sky that had just been illuminated by the Ushiki was illuminated by Toshiro again. However, unlike the dazzling white light when the tailed beast ball exploded just now, this time Toshiro directly raised a huge bonfire with a diameter of tens of meters in the night sky. The night sky was reflected in an orange-red color. Whoosh! It seemed that because of the burning of a large amount of flames and the continuous raging of the tornado, the airflow around it was driven, and this huge diameter fire tornado began to rotate naturally. The diameter also slowly expanded from the original tens of meters, and the central area showed a burning white light, so that Toshiro, who was nearby, could feel the overwhelming heat. Damn, even if it is a tailed beast, I think this set of combos will have some effect. After a period of almost crazy output, Toshiro looked at the results he caused and was quite satisfied. First, when fighting with Killer Bee, he directly drifted and swung his tail during the charge, and then followed up with a few super rock cannons, directly killing Killer Bee. After the Ushigui came online, he first summoned the 5-layer Rashomon to block the opponent's tailed beast ball, and then used Chiyobimaru's invisibility ability to sneak up on the Ushigui. Yes, as a lizard, Chiyobimaru had an ability that surprised Toshiro very much, which was invisibility. But with only the ability of invisibility, it was impossible to use it to sneak attack the Ushigui. Chiyobimaru's body was too big, and the slightest movement would not be hidden from people, or to say, from the Ushigui. But with Toshiro's cooperation, Chiyobimaru's ability, which was originally only used to hide and not move, was put to good use. He directly used the light and heavy rock technique to make Chiyobimaru's weight drop sharply. Not to say that it was as light as a feather, but it could also greatly reduce the possibility of being discovered. Combined with Toshiro's misleading and projection illusion, even the Ushigui would find it difficult to find them when Chiyobimaru deliberately slowed down his movements. In addition to the explosion of the tailed beast ball just now, and the smoke and dust flying all over the sky, these all played a certain role in covering up. The only problem was that he needed to convert Chiyobimaru's chakra into oil for the subsequent ninjutsu attack. This consumed a lot of his mental energy. However, these were not a problem for an Uchiha who had opened the Meixiang. He let out a long breath. Even with his current chakra, he was a little overwhelmed by such a big move. Seeing the fire tornado taking shape, he quickly cut off his own and Chiyobimaru's chakra input. Since the fire tornado had already formed, he didn't need to continue to input chakra to maintain this large-scale combination ninjutsu. Counting the oil sprayed by Chiyobimaru, it didn't take long for the fire tornado to stop. He just needed to control it so that it wouldn't leave the area around Ushiki. This time, facing the 8 tails is much easier than the last time facing the 9 tails. Not only Toshiro, but even Chiubimaru was a little floating now. Looking at the burning fire tornado in the distance, he felt that he had reached the peak of the summoned beast. Even the toads of Meibaku Mountain and the snakes of Richi Cave, the strongest group of summoned beasts among them, who can reach this level when facing the complete form of the 8 tails? The 9 tails was controlled by someone else last time, otherwise it would not be so easy to deal with. As for the 8 tails on the opposite side, it is now controlling its own body. The 9 tails was controlled by Obito last time, and Obito had to distract himself to deal with the 4th Hokage, and did not show his true strength at all. Don't be careless. Even with this kind of attack, the 8 tails can withstand it. There are 2 more 9 tails than the 8 tails, but they used their tails to block the chakra bombardment of the 10 tails. Although his attack this time was powerful, facing this abnormal defense, he was not very sure that he could knock the opponent down directly. What? This level of combined ninjutsu? Even if a real sage came, he might not be able to withstand it. The 8 tails, these tailed beasts, especially the 8 tails and the 9 tails, are not so easy to deal with. Seeing that Chiubimaru didn't believe it, Toshiro explained it briefly and didn't say much. It's impossible to knock him down directly, but this level of high temperature can still make him suffer. High temperature radiation is something that cannot be resisted by flesh and blood alone, especially this kind of continuous high temperature burning, even if these flesh and blood contain a lot of chakra. I know. Chapter 366. Are you seeking death? Hunt, hunt, hunt. It's burning me to death. Just as Dong Shilang thought, less than 3 minutes had passed. The huge, incredibly hot fire tornado burned up all the oil inside, and then it lasted for a short while before naturally extinguishing. As soon as it extinguished, a high-pitched scream resounded throughout the battlefield. I smell the smell of takoyaki. It's mixed with the smell of grilled steak. Akimaki Choza, who was obese and extremely sensitive to the smell of food, sniffed his nose slightly. His stomach growled twice, as if he was hungry. He was indeed a little hungry. It was late at night, and it was time for his midnight snack. As for his companion being hungry at this critical moment, even though he knew his companion's nature a long time ago, Narashikaku still didn't know how to complain. Not to mention Choza, who in the entire camp didn't smell the fragrance blowing over the night wind. Chuzu. If you want a midnight snack. You'd better wait until the matter is over. Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't stand it anymore, so he comforted Chozu a few words, and then cast his eyes on Shikaku. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. Well, things should be over soon. Akai Tawashiru's strength really surprised him. Not long ago, he was still worried that the other party could not deal with the Abi combination at the same time, and sent a signal for the other party to retreat. Unexpectedly, it had not been long since they discussed midnight snacks here. Looking at Chozu's throat that kept moving, he was very curious. Whether the stomach of the Akimaki family could bear the tailed beast cuisine. It seems. The surface is almost carbonized. Looking at the beef ghost in the distance, which had changed from flesh color to charcoal grilled style, and smelling the fragrance in the air, Tawashiro looked at Chiubimaru under him. If the other party eats part of the body of the 8 tails into his stomach, he didn't know if he would get part of the 8 tails chakra like Kinkaku and Ginkaku. It's almost time to rest. Get ready to fight. He was still able to wail loudly, which proved that Niyugi had no major problems, and they had to be prepared to fight. Boom, boom, boom. And to his surprise, Niyugi, whose surface had turned into pieces of black charcoal, took rumbling steps and did not rush to attack Dong Shilang. Instead, he plunged into a small lake not far away. Is this to cool down? Standing with such a style, Dong Shilang looked at the dark clouds slowly gathering in the sky, and suddenly he didn't know what to say. Is it not enough to turn into a charcoal grilled octopus? And he also wants an electric octopus soup pot? Coming to the small lake used by the Konoha camp to get water, Niyugi didn't care about the possibility that the other party might attack him. Bang! A sound of splashing into the water sounded. He jumped directly and put his whole body into this small lake with a small area. It just wanted to find a place to cool itself down now, and it didn't care about anything else. It's a pity that this small lake is not deep enough to even submerge my body. It would be great if this was the seaside. Looking at the splashing water and the lake water that only reached 1/3 of his height, Niyugi had nothing to complain about. "It's you, Uchiha bastard. I must kill you this time. And that lizard over there, you also have a part in this matter. I won't let you go easily." Niyugi, whose entire body surface had turned into charcoal except for his head, was really angry when he saw Dong Shileng and Chiubimaru, who did not attack in the distance. The suffering he suffered this time was the most serious injury he had suffered in all these years. Even Hashirama Senju and the Third Raikage, although they defeated him and locked him up, the process was not as painful as this time. He really felt that he was about to be burned just now. If the fire tornado lasted several times longer, he didn't know if he could withstand this continuous high-temperature burning. Looking at Niyugi, who was controlling the water flow to pour on himself to cool down and making harsh words, both Tawashiro and Chiubimaru looked at it as if it were an idiot. Then they turned their eyes to the dark clouds that kept gathering in the sky. It seems a little bad. Seeing the other party's behavior, the Ushiki, whose brain had not been burned out, felt the danger approaching and also looked up at the sky. However, what he saw was just a large gathering of dark clouds, and there was nothing else unusual. Damn it. However, he soon discovered the lightning that kept gathering in the sky. He seemed to have done something stupid. Without any hesitation, the Ushiki jumped out of the small lake with the action of a vicious dog pouncing on its prey, ready to leave the water, and then wrapped himself with his tail again. Earth Escape Middle. Super Rock Iron Cannon. What made it a little collapsed was, just when it had just left the water and was ready to resist the attack, a stone larger than an ordinary house hit it. It hit the water again. Kylan, a dazzling beam of light fell from the sky. The Ushiki, who had no time to wrap himself up, was hit hard by Tawashiro's Kirin this time. What's more troublesome is that it is now in a lake that is not very large. Roar. A painful roar. Even with the Ushiki's strong body, it can't bear so many attacks from Tawashiro and Chiubimaru, especially the last Kirin. It really made it feel what it means to be sour and numb. TSK. The vitality of the tailed beast is really tenacious. Looking at the Ushiki, who is now lying in the lake like a puddle of mud and can only wave his octopus tail hesitantly, Tawashiro can't help but sigh. Even after experiencing multiple attacks from himself and Chiubi, this guy can still maintain consciousness. He is really not an ordinary pervert. Magic Sharingan. Although he is still conscious, his mental state is not very good now. He doesn't even need to open the Meixiang. Just the 3 Magatama Sharingan can make this guy fall into a coma. Without the support of the cow ghost, and with Kairabi unable to stay awake, the cow ghost's body quickly began to shrink rapidly, and then only Kairabi's floating figure was left. Finally it's done. Looking at Kairabi in the lake, Dong Shileng also felt a little relieved. This series of battles is really more difficult than the last. Chapter 367. Brotherly Love. It should be over soon. Standing on Chiubimaru's head, Tawashiro looked down at the almost naked figure in the lake. A doubt that he had been wondering for a long time was finally solved. In that case, I have almost reached my limit. I will take my leave. Master Tawashiro. Chiubimaru, who had been helped by Tawashiro to gain points, felt extremely comfortable at this moment. He felt that he had reached the peak that a summoned beast could reach. Well, thank you for your hard work this time. Without the opponent's assistance, he had no other way to deal with the attack of the tailed beast except to activate the Sage Mode or use the Meixiang Sharingan. The reason why he did not directly use the Meixiang Sharingan in Senjutsu was that, on the one hand, fighting like this was boring. On the other hand, he wanted to test the results of his uninterrupted practice for the past 16 years. From the age of 4 until now, the strength growth brought by the practice day after day did not disappoint him. Bang! A breeze blew, a puff of white smoke drifted away, and only the shirtless figure of Tawashiro was left in the place. Should we just kill the whole guy? Walking into the lake, Dong Shileng's expression was calm. He stroked the stubble on his chin with one hand and held the long sword in his hand with the other. He was relaxed and casual. He had a good impression of Killer Bee. After all, a funny guy who loved rap was not annoying. The level of thunder abuse, Chiomai before he could figure out the reason. The Raikage, who had not appeared since the Eight Tails came online, suddenly appeared behind Dong Shulang. He launched a sneak attack on him again. At the same time, he shouted loudly, "I will never let you kill Bee." From the perspective of the Raikage, Dong Shulang was not thinking about whether to kill Killer Bee, but was thinking about where to start the knife. This made the Raikage, who had been hiding nearby, no longer able to hide. He didn't care about his injuries and directly launched a sneak attack on Dong Shulang at the fastest speed he could use. TSK, what a deep brotherly love. It's just that the strength is a little different. He curled his lips. The opponent's attack was only worthy of praise in terms of speed. Compared with his father, the power was still far behind. "You bastard, don't underestimate the Raikage." Seeing Tawashiru's disdainful look, the already hot-tempered Raikage could not stand this stimulation. He was furious again, making his attack speed and force even stronger. He was really furious. Because he used too much force, his hair stood up again. That's not all, even the wound that had stopped bleeding broke again, and large amounts of blood spurted out as if it was free. Since you want to save your brother so much, then use your own life to pay for it. Compared with the likable Killer Bee, the Raikage was not so pleasing to his eyes. Besides, this incident was caused by the opponent, and even if he killed the opponent, it was his own fault. Swish, swish, swish. With a few quick dodgings, he dodged the Raikage's sneak attack. Dong Shiro saw a flaw that the opponent had revealed due to his urgency, and swung the long sword in his hand and stabbed it towards the Raikage's chest. The target was Ai's heart. Oops. Finding that he couldn't dodge the opponent's attack, the Raikage was not afraid of his impending death, but just felt sorry for not saving Bai. Once he died, there would be no one here to stop the opponent from hurting Bai. But unfortunately, the speed of the two of them fighting was too fast, and he couldn't dodge more even if he wanted to. Melting release membrane wall. Just when Dong Shiro's long sword was about to pierce the Raikage's body, a layer of light yellow oil film-like substance blocked the Raikage in front of him. Can you block it? Dong Shiro had absolute confidence in the chakra long sword in his hand. Even if this blocked the blood limit of the third-generation Raikage to a certain extent in the original work, he had the confidence to pierce it with his long sword. Swish. There was a slight sound. As expected, the opponent's bloodline limit did not block his attack. Lava release protective jade to say that this Cloud Ninja Dodai who came in time is really worthy of being the strongest assistant of the Cloud Ninja village. When he arrived nearby and saw that his boss was in danger, he directly used his own special skills. First, he used the protective membrane wall to buy some time, and then his hands kept moving, and directly used the protective membrane like a ball to protect the Raikage. If it were someone else, your response might really save the Raikage. After praising this suddenly appeared Cloud Ninja, Tawashiru did not stop his movements. But, you are facing me this time. The long sword stabbed forward, and the chakra in his hand surged, and the length of the long sword in his hand increased dramatically. Puff. A sound of a sharp blade entering the flesh was heard. Next, Tawashiru only needed to pull the long sword in his hand horizontally, and the Raikage on the opposite side would be ripped open by him. Lord Raikage Dodai, who had just stretched out his palm to grab the Raikage's body and was about to pull him out of the opponent's attack range, watched helplessly as a piece of blue-green transparent long sword pierced through the Raikage's body. He was really shocked and angry. He had seen the opponent's ninjutsu from a distance and knew that this kind of chakra-composed longsword was extremely sharp, but he didn't expect that he would know how difficult the opponent's attack was when he really faced it. When he thought of the opponent's next move, he couldn't help but feel a little cold. Storm release. Likuosuo Kesu. Just when Dodai thought that the Raikage was really going to die this time, Darui's voice like the sound of nature reached his ears. Fortunately, he didn't come to support alone rashly, he had companions. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A burst of laser firing sounds, accompanied by a dazzling white light, came into Tawashiru's eyes. At the same time, a white spot of light shone on his body. guiding more than 10 storm release light columns that looked like white water streams, drawing arcs one after another and shooting towards Toshiro. This is not the end. Following these storm releases, there were shurikens one after another, making a swish sound of breaking through the air and heading towards him. It was Darui, whom he had dealt with before, and another jounin of the Cloud Ninja. This kid is really good. No wonder he will be valued by the Raikage in the future, and later became the 5th Raikage. It was a bit unexpected. I didn't expect that Darui, who retreated directly last time, could actually use this kind of ninjutsu. It seems that the other party chose to retreat when facing him last time. It was more of a matter of assessing the situation and considering whether to pass the information to the Raikage as soon as possible. Chapter 368 Nonsense. Good opportunity. Seeing his companion's ninjutsu successfully attracted the enemy's attention. If he didn't take the opportunity to rescue the Raikage, he would not be a Cloud Ninja. Puff. With the force of his arms, he pulled the Raikage who had just escaped from the chakra sword of Toshiro and then blocked himself in front of the Raikage to protect him. After escaping from the chakra sword, the penetrating wound on the Raikage's chest inevitably began to spurt blood, and Toshiro's eyebrows jumped. How can it be so easy? Seeing that the other party rescued his prey, Toshiro would never let the other party succeed so easily. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. He opened his mouth and spit out a huge orange red fireball, which hit Toshiro. Toshiro turned around to deal with the throwing attacks launched by Darui and another unknown Cloud Ninja. No, this time it's over. Toshiro didn't expect that Toshiro would directly spit out a ninjutsu without making a seal. He had already done his best in his previous move. What was even more troublesome was that he was now standing in front of the Raikage. If he dodged, but now Toshiro had no time to deal with this guy. After all, Darui's storm release was a bloodline limit, and its power was quite extraordinary. He could only swing his sword and knock down all those storm release light columns and those thrown weapons. Storm release. It is indeed a ninjutsu with excellent penetrating power. Just by swinging his sword to block, Toshiro could tell from the strength in his hand that Darui's attacks were not comparable to ordinary ninjutsu, and he couldn't help but praise him. Darui, who was opposite him, was not in the mood to flatter Toshiro at this time. His usual lazy look disappeared, and he was concentrating on the direction of Toshiro's fireball attack. Great. Looking at the Raikage with blue lightning armor on his body, he blocked Toshiro's ninjutsu with his tall body. Darui couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then he felt exhausted. Storm release was still a little too early for him now. If he wasn't in a hurry to rescue the Raikage, he wouldn't have used it now. Lord Raikage, are you okay? Looking at the Raikage standing in front of him, Dodai was moved, but also began to worry about Ai's injuries. Not to mention the scattered wounds on the Raikage's body extending from the left shoulder to the right hip. These are all superficial injuries. The real trouble is the penetrating wound on the chest. With his lava release blocking, Toshiro's stab deviated from the trajectory, and with the Raikage's own efforts, this blow aimed at the wound in the heart finally pierced his lungs. However, under this situation, the Raikage still forcibly used chakra to help him block this great fireball technique. The current situation is really worrying. I'm fine. After comforting his subordinates, the Raikage didn't care about his own wounds, but cast his eyes on Toshiro and Karabi next to Toshiro, with an extremely solemn expression. He knew that it would not be easy to get out safely today. Swish. Two soft sounds. Darui, who had just appeared, and the unknown Kuro ninja came to stand behind the Raikage at the same time. Oh, are you preparing for a 4-on-1 fight? Looking at the four opponents, Toshiro was not panicked at all, but frowned and began to think, should he kill the Raikage here? In this way, a full-scale war between Konoha and Kumo Ninja Village will surely break out. Should he take this opportunity to get promoted? To be honest, the position of Hokage is not really important to him, who has the experience of his previous life. If it were the daimyo of the Land of Fire, he would still consider it. As for the position of Hokage, it is not to be discarded like a worn-out shoe, but it is not rare either. After some thinking, Toshiro made the decision to let him go. If he had been killed in the battle just now, he would have killed him, but now, and if he did this, It might not be the Uchiha and Konoha who would benefit, but it is more likely that Inoki of the Land of Earth would get the biggest benefit. Hey, you guys, look at the support from others, and then look at you. Are you still pretending to be dead there? Dong Shilang did not rush to express his opinion, and directly cast his eyes to a jungle on the shore. Haha, didn't expect the Uchiha Jonin to find us so quickly? The three heads of the three Hokage families, Narashikaku, Akimaki Choza, and Yamanaka Inoichi, appeared. Seeing that the situation here had changed, Shikaku left the camp to others, and brought Choza and Inoichi to check the situation. As soon as he arrived, he saw Dong Shilang piercing the fourth Raikage through with a sword, and his heart was about to jump out of his throat. Seeing that the support from the Cloud Ninja successfully rescued the Raikage, he breathed a sigh of relief and felt a little lost. He originally planned to pretend to be dead and watch the development of the situation quietly, but he didn't expect to be exposed by Dong Shilang, so he had to come out with his friends. Ah, this is really incredible. I didn't expect that I could meet Raikage and Senior Dodai of Kumagakure in such a remote place. Life is really amazing. As soon as he appeared, Shikaku greeted the Raikage and Dodai on the opposite side very familiarly. It seems that there was some misunderstanding between Raikage and Uchiha Jonin before I came here. Shikaku knew the Sandame's thoughts very well. He first greeted the Raikage and Dodai on the opposite side, and then defined this matter as a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? How can your misunderstanding be like this? Hearing Shikaku's nonsense, Tawashiro rolled his eyes and couldn't help complaining that these guys from the Hokage family were really good at talking. They could really turn black into white. Not to mention Tawashiro, even the Raikage on the opposite side almost couldn't control his injuries after hearing Shikaku's words, and said that he had learned a lot. However, he also knew that he was not in an advantageous position, so he winked at Dodai next to him and said nothing. Yes, my Kakumo ninja and Konoha have been close allies since the Nidaime era. This time there were just some minor accidents, and the Jinchuriki couldn't control his emotions. After we bring them back to the Kumo ninja and re-strengthen the seal, I don't think this kind of accident will happen again. We also have to thank the Uchiha Jonin for helping us control the runaway Jinchuriki. Afterwards, we, the Kumo ninja, will definitely write a letter to the Sandaime Hokage to thank you very much. As soon as he opened his mouth, Dodai showed Tawashiro another side of the Kumo ninja. Chapter 369 Kushina arrives. Looking at Shikaku, who fully implemented the spirit of the third Hokage, peace is the most precious thing. And opposite him, Dodai, who knew what it meant to say what was right to each person. Tawashiro couldn't stand the false courtesy of these two people. Wasn't the second Hokage killed by Kinkaku and Ginkaku of your Kumagaku? Listening to Dodai's words, Tawashiro couldn't help but want to complain. The covenant between Konoha and Kumagaku? What year is this old calendar from? Why are you bringing it up? During the Second and Third Wars, both sides almost beat the human brain into a dog brain, and Dodai's voice seemed to want to bring Killer Bee back to Kumagakure. How could such a good thing happen? These are all misunderstandings, all misunderstandings. All of this was done by the two rebels Kinkaku and Ginkaku, and has nothing to do with our Kumagakure. Not only your Konoha's second Hokage, but even our second Raikage also died because of this. Dead people won't speak, and putting all the blame on the rebels, Suchi continued. Besides, aren't we Kumagakure negotiating with your Konoha about renewing the contract? There's no need to dwell on the past, everything should be looking forward. Carefully looking at Tawashiro's face, Suchi considered again, and said these words. Oh, sign a peace agreement? If you hadn't said it, I would have thought that your Kumagakure sent an envoy to our Konoha this time specifically to steal the Hyuga bloodline limit. After saying this, Tawashiro ignored the Raikage whose face was getting uglier and uglier, and continued to mock. You Kumo ninjas are really interesting. When the situation was good, you wouldn't give in. Now that the situation is bad, you bring up the peace agreement signed by both parties. I doubt whether you Kumo ninjas will abide by the agreement even if they have signed it. He wanted to use the Sandaime Hokage and the peace agreement to pressure him. Tawashiro didn't care about these things at all. This, Dodai, who had served as the deputy of the Raikage since the Sandaime Raikage, opened his mouth and didn't know how to answer Tawashiru's words for a moment. The fact is that they, the Kuro ninjas, took advantage of the peace talks to try to steal Konoha's bloodline limit, but were caught by the other side. Afterwards, it was the Bakuto who took the initiative to invade the border of the Land of Fire. Then, the Raikage took the initiative to break into the Konoha camp to save people. All these things, no matter how eloquent he was, he couldn't find any words to refute. After being rebuked by Tawashiru, every Kuro ninja present looked unhappy, especially the fourth Raikage. When had he ever been ridiculed like this before? He was about to explode on the spot. Uchiha Tawashiru ... You bastard. What, are you going to continue? Tawashiru was not willing to give in. When the other party was not injured, they could not beat him. Now that they were seriously injured, they were no match for him. As for the other three Kuro ninjas, Tawashiru did not take them seriously at all. Although he was a little weak now ... But didn't he still have the current heads of the Pig, Deer, and Chu families behind him? If a fight really broke out, the three guys couldn't just sit there and watch. Uchiha Jonin and Raikage, how about ... We retreat temporarily? What's going on here? And the peace agreement? Wait until both sides sent someone to negotiate? Shikaku looked at Tawashiru carefully and felt that he couldn't go on like this. Tawashiru obviously didn't want to give up, and Raikage was also a tough guy. If they continued to talk like this, it was estimated that both sides would have to continue fighting. Of course you can. He understood what Shikaku meant. It was just a delay. However, in order to show the sincerity of the Cloud Ninja, this guy will go with us to visit the Konoha camp. Anyway, he didn't want to provoke a war between Konoha and the Cloud Ninja so that the third Tsuchikage could take advantage. So it's not impossible to retreat directly. However, Killer Bee still had to go back to the camp with him. He was in a hurry this time and didn't bring the scroll to seal the tailed beast's chakra. This opportunity is rare, and he won't give up just like that. I don't know, Raikage. Nara Shikaku still agreed with Tawashiru's proposal. After all, who doesn't want to have more bargaining chips in their hands during negotiations? Not only Shikaku, but even the subordinates of the Raikage cast their eyes on the Raikage with a livid face at this time. Dodai. The Raikage did not make a decision himself, but looked at the figure next to him, as if asking something. Dodai looked at the large group of Cloud Ninjas moving towards this side in the distance. He made a gesture to the Raikage. In that case, let's follow them. Just when the Raikage was about to use the distant Kumagakure as a support to deal with these guys from Konoha and see if he could get them to release Killer Bee, he suddenly paused. Nine Tails Jinchuriki. After saying these words word by word, the Raikage didn't say another word, just staring at Kushina's direction. Oh, finally, some decent support has arrived. This is interesting. After all, you Kumagakure are not the only ones with Jinchuriki. Although the Raikage paused, Tawashiru was not idle. He felt the unobstructed chakra aura from afar, and he looked over first. I didn't expect that the Sandaime was not so old and confused that he even knew to send Senior Kushina here. Shikaku, do you think that if we kill the Raikage, the 8 Tails Jinchuriki, and the 2 Tails Jinchuriki in their camp right here, and then join forces with the Land of Earth to advance from both the sea and the land, can we directly eliminate the Cloud Ninja? Looking at the slowly approaching red figure, Tawashiru was not afraid of trouble. Looking at the Cloud Ninjas opposite, he smiled evilly and began to threaten them. Haha. Uchiha Jonin is joking. How could he respond to this topic? But to be honest, the scene described by Uchiha Tawashiru made his blood boil just thinking about it. Although he was lazy, he had the opportunity to destroy a powerful country like the Land of Lightning. It must be a very fulfilling thing. Tawashiru felt relieved. After hearing what he said, the Raikage and Darui's faces, which were already dark, were fine, and no changes could be seen. However, Dodai and another passerby Kumo ninja turned pale in the face, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. My boss is really taking too much risk. If this happened here, with the 2 Tails and the 8 Tails Jinchuriki in trouble, the village would be leaderless, and this kind of thing could really happen. Looking at the Raikage next to him, Dodai decided that if he had the chance to return to the village this time, he would still have to persuade the Reincarnated not to be so reckless again. Chapter 370 Promise. Let's go. He took a deep look at Kushina in the distance. The Reincarnated retracted his gaze and paused for a moment on the faces of Toshiro and Narashikaku. Then he led his men away without looking back. He didn't even care about his own brother. The Konoha people who stayed in place didn't mean to chase after him. Long time no see, Kushina-senpai. Seeing the Reincarnated walking away, Toshiro didn't mean to chase him, but greeted the red figure coming from afar. I didn't expect that the third Hokage would ask you to come to support. It's really a waste of talent. Toshiro, you're polite. It seems that I came a little late. I didn't play any role. You guys have already won. Without even looking with her eyes, she sensed the eight-tailed beast in Killer Bee's body, and she also guessed the identity of the strong man who just left. It seems to be almost certain that Senior Kushina has to come here to make the final decision. Kushina, long time no see. Just as Toshiro and Kushina were greeting each other, Shikaku and the other two also came forward to greet Kushina. Yeah, long time no see. Just as Toshiro and the others were greeting each other. Lord Reincarnated, quick, medical ninja. Come and see the injury of the Reincarnated. Following the Reincarnated and his own troops, he just returned to the Cloud Ninja camp. Before Darui and the others could breathe a sigh of relief, the Reincarnated, who had just stepped into the central tent, fell straight down. Dodai, Darui and the others who followed him were scared. In fact, after being hit by Toshiro's sword, the Reincarnated could no longer hold on. The opponent's attack not only pierced his chest, but also caused considerable damage to his body. But he still held his breath and forced his chakra to withstand Toshiro's fireball. While saving Dodai, he also confronted the people of Konoha for the safety of his brother. When he saw Kushina coming, he had to retreat with his subordinates. With his hot temper, he couldn't stand such stimulation. After settling his subordinates, he finally couldn't hold on and fell down. The next morning, just after coming out of Killer Bee's tent, Toshiro looked relieved. He had collected 3 points of the tailed beast's chakra, which was considered to be one step closer to his goal. Master Toshiro, yes. With a casual yes, Toshiro didn't care about the guards at the door and walked towards the central tent. Uchiha Jonin, this way. Just after arriving at the door of the tent, a Nara clan Jonin led Toshiro to his position. I wonder if Captain Nara wants me here for something? As soon as he sat down, Toshiro didn't hesitate to ask Narashikaku, who was sitting opposite him, while nodding to Kushina, who was also in the tent. Actually, it was Kushina who asked the Uchiha Jonin to come here this time. I'm also a little curious about what she wants to ask you for. Oh, I wonder if Senior Kushina. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Kushina. There was a little friendship between him and Kushina because of Minato's disciples and the fourth Hokage. But there shouldn't be any intersection between them. It was the third Hokage. He entrusted me to give you a scroll of the Uzumaki clan. As she spoke, she fluently made a few seals, and then a scroll with a diameter of 30 centimeters and a length of 60 centimeters appeared in her hands. This made Toshiro a little embarrassed. After all, Kushina was the legitimate heir of the Uzumaki clan, and what he wanted was the other party's family ninjutsu? Which was a bit embarrassing. Also, what does the Sandaime Hokage mean, letting Kushina hand over this scroll to him? Is he trying to tell him that besides Jiraiya, Konoha has another nine-tails Jinchuriki who can suppress him? Don't be embarrassed, Toshiro. The Uzumaki clan has been exterminated. It is also one of my wishes to pass on these secrets. Toshiro is also a ninja of Konoha. I can rest assured to hand it over to you. Touching the swirl symbol on the scroll, Kushina's eyes revealed a look of reminiscence. In that case, thank you very much. Taking over this obviously old scroll, Toshiro glanced at Kushina and then said, as far as I know, there are still many survivors of the Uzumaki clan in the ninja world. Since I have accepted the collection of the Uzumaki clan, I will try to find it in the future. If the Sandaime Hokage handed him the scroll, he would naturally not do it in vain. But Kushina is the owner of these scrolls after all. It is a bit aggrieved to take the other party's things without expressing it. In this case, I thank you in advance. Hearing Toshiro's words, Kushina's eyes lit up, then dimmed again. as if she remembered some past events. To be honest, the extermination of the Uzumaki clan really cannot be blamed on the third Hokage. The root of this matter was planted by the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. He distributed the tailed beasts to the major ninja villages, and also gave them a set of sealing ninjutsu to help these ninjas seal the tailed beasts. But the profession of ninja is full of fraud and darkness. No matter which ninja village it is, they all stay away from the good intentions of the first Hokage, fearing that there is some conspiracy of Konoha. Instead of using the sealing technique given by the first Hokage, they use their own more reliable folk methods. In this way, there is no chance that the sealing technique will be tampered with by others. However, the tailed beasts run wild from time to time. This made the several major countries that have tailed beasts, especially the water, thunder, and earth countries, come up with another idea. Since my sealing technique doesn't work, why don't I find someone who can, kill them, and then take the other party's sealing technique for myself? For this reason, several major ninja villages took a rare joint action, directly wiped out the Uchiha village, and divided the sealing information of the Uchiha village. Among them, only the Wind Country and the Desert did not participate. They felt that the Ninja Temple in the Wind Country had a special sealing method, and they only had one tailed beast, so it was not a big problem, so they did not participate. This also caused the Sand Village to gradually fail to suppress Shukaku after its strength declined. As for the third generation Hokage, his mistake was that he did not accept the refugees of the Uzumaki clan when they fled in all directions. Of course, he also had his own reasons. Who knows if there are spies arranged by other villages among these survivors of the Whirlpool country? Don't say that you can distinguish them by blood. There are too many ways to control a person to work for you. Chapter 371 Tough. Lord Raikage. You're awake in the Kumagakure camp. The Raikage, who had been unconscious for a day and a night, opened his eyes. Where's Dodai? And what's the situation outside now? As soon as he woke up, the Raikage did not ask about his own injuries, but asked Zai next to him. Senior Dodai is arranging the defense of the camp. As for the current situation, speaking of the current situation, Zai was a little entangled, not knowing how to start. What's wrong? Is it Konoha that attacked? It shouldn't be. Didn't the third Hokage of Konoha always advocate some empty words like Quill of Fire? And this time, they were able to let us retreat safely, and they should not have the intention of expanding the war. No, Konoha is very calm. Hearing the Raikage talking about Konoha, Zai shook his head and denied it, and his expression became more panicked. Could it be that old thing Inoki? Seeing Zai's expression, the Raikage first thought that it was the Iwagakure side, whether they took advantage of his injury to come and take advantage again, but he quickly denied this idea. Zai's expression said it all. Could it be those restless guys in the village? Seeing Zai nodding his head like crazy, even someone as determined as the Raikage felt a headache when he thought about the possible reactions of his subordinates when the news of his injury and coma and the capture of the Eight Tails was passed back to the village. He felt overwhelmed. The Cloud Ninjas worshipped the strong very much. After the news of his injury and coma and the capture of the Eight Tails was known by the fighting factions in the village, it was obvious that the village was in chaos. Some wanted to retaliate and go to war with Konoha directly, while others thought they were not strong enough and tried to stir up trouble. It was estimated that all kinds of monsters would jump out. Take me to see Dodai. When he thought of this, he could no longer lie down, and directly lifted the blanket on his body, got up and walked outside. Lord Raikage, your body needs a good rest now. Seeing the Raikage go out, Zai hurriedly followed him and tried to persuade him beside him. Zai, I'm fine now. After explaining casually, the Raikage strode towards the center of the camp. He couldn't show the slightest weakness now. The Cloud Ninja didn't need a weak Raikage. Konoha Hokage building. Hokage-sama, the Cloud Ninja is already at a clear disadvantage. How dare they make such an excessive request? Hyuga Hayashi, who always looked old-fashioned and polite, could no longer maintain the demeanor of his Hyuga family, and looked at the head of the third Hokage and began to question. We, the ninja families, have sacrificed our lives to protect the village, but when something like this happens, shouldn't the village stand up for us? Originally, The news came from the front that the Raikage was defeated by Uchiha Toshiro, and even the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki had fallen into the hands of Konoha. Hyuga Hayashi thought that with such a bargaining chip, the Cloud Ninja would give in no matter what, and Hisashi would not die in his place again, but reality gave him a hard slap in the face. Although the Cloud Ninjas suffered a certain blow, their arrogance became even more arrogant, and the demands for peace talks did not change at all. They still demanded that Konoha hand over the murderer. Hyuga clan leader, don't get excited first, aren't we discussing countermeasures? After receiving a signal from his teammates, Mito Kato and hurriedly spoke to appease them. All this has not been determined yet. Besides, it's all for the peace and stability of Konoha, not to mention Hyuga Hayashi. Even the high-level officials of Konoha were stunned by the Cloud Ninja's actions. If you don't know, you would think that it was Konoha that lost the tailed beast. Hayashi, be patient. The third Hokage was also very troubled. As a Hokage, he was at a different height and perspective from Hayashi. Although he had an advantage on the battlefield, he still had some understanding of the situation of the Cloud Ninjas. The more times like this, the more the Cloud Ninjas would not give in. Only by gaining a certain advantage at the negotiation table could the fourth Raikage be able to appease those restless guys in his village. However, this puts pressure on Konoha. I think there is nothing to talk about with the Kuro Ninja. Since they have already caught the Eight Tails, the camp has the upper hand. Why don't we just go to war with them? Although Danzo usually has a lot of little thoughts and can be called selfish, he jumped out again after being provoked by the Kuro Ninja. In my opinion, Shikaku and the others should not have let the Raikage go last time. With the Raikage in hand, the Kuro Ninja will be at our mercy. The last time he directly proposed to start a war, he did not get Hiruzen's consent. Now the situation is favorable to Konoha. Danzo plans to give it a try. However, he was not as straightforward as last time, but started the conversation first, wanting to see the reactions of these Konoha big families and the Jonin. Yes, the Cloud Ninja really doesn't know what's good for them this time. In my opinion, we should teach those Cloud Ninja a lesson this time. If we don't let them know how powerful we are, they won't behave. As soon as Danzo finished speaking, the Konoha upper echelons participating in the meeting began to discuss in the entire conference room. Last time, facing the threat of the Cloud Ninja, they were all a little timid and wanted to keep things quiet, but after Toshiro captured the Two Tails and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, they felt that the Cloud Ninja was not so scary anymore. They all began to express their different opinions. It works. Seeing the result that was completely different from the last time he proposed to go to war with the Cloud Ninja, there were few people who responded. Shimura Danzo despised these guys who changed their minds in his heart. Just as he was about to speak again and continue to promote his own ideas, the third Hokage spoke at this time. I am also very pleased with everyone's attitude now. However, the village has just escaped from a large-scale war not long ago, and each family is in their recovery period. The newly born children in the clan are not even old enough to attend ninja school. It is better not to start a war easily. Taking a puff of cigarette, the Sandame continued. Moreover, everyone knows the geographical location of Konoha. Once we have a full-scale conflict with the Cloud Ninja, neither the Mist Ninja nor the Rock Ninja will sit idly by. This is also one of the reasons why he has always adhered to the concept of peace over the years. The geographical location of the Fire Country is that either it does not fight, or it fights with all the major countries one by one. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Development. Hiruzen, do we really have to hand over Hyuga Hisashi's body to the Kumo Ninja? Maybe we should consider Danzo's opinion. In the Hokage's office, Konoha F4 sat together again to discuss the situation. Yunta and Koharu also felt that the Kuro Ninja had gone too far this time, and began to agree with Danzo's opinion. Not only him, but even Mito Kato-en felt that it would be bad for the village to simply hand over the bodies of the Hyuga clan to the Kumo ninja. Would this lead to the disclosure of the Hyuga clan's secrets? We can't be too weak, otherwise it will only make the enemies around us think we are weak and can be bullied. By then, let alone the other 4 major countries, I'm afraid that the small countries around us will also think that there is an opportunity. Seeing that Koharu supported his idea of going to war, Danzo quickly began to strike while the iron was hot, wanting to take the opportunity to persuade the 3rd Hokage. I didn't directly reject the Cloud Ninja's request. On the one hand, I wanted to end the confrontation between the 2 sides as soon as possible. On the other hand, at this point, the Sandaime Hokage looked at his companions and continued, facing the major families in the village. Our main target over the years has always been on the Uchiha. Now looking back, the Uchiha is still prosperous and strong. What's more troublesome is that the Hyuga has gradually emerged over the years. I also want to take this opportunity to give this Konoha clan a good beating. The Hyuga is not like the Uchiha. They can still add some sand to it. The Hyuga's caged bird determines all the actions of the Hyuga clan members, and they are all based on the will of the main family. Things like the will of fire are completely like playing the lute to a cow for the Hyuga ninjas. The caged bird of the main family is much more useful than these illusory things. Moreover, if we go to war, we will inevitably have to rely on the power of Uchiha Toshiro, which will be very disadvantageous for us to suppress the Uchiha. With just a few words, the Sandaime dispelled his companion's idea of continuing the war. His plan was good, but the development of things is often very unexpected. Please stay. Clan leader Fugaku, Hyuga Hayashi, who had just come out of the Hokage building, was thinking about how to save his brother's life. When he looked up, he saw a familiar figure. With a thought, he hurried forward to greet him. I wonder if clan leader Uchiha is free. I heard that the camellia at Takeda Hall is very good. I wonder if you would be lucky enough to go over and sit together. As soon as he saw Uchiha Fugaku, a bold idea entered Hayashi's mind. Since it is impossible to prevent Hayashi's death with the power of the Hyuga clan, why not bring the Uchiha clan together? Although the Uchiha clan has a bad reputation in the village, they are strong. With their support, the possibility of saving Hayashi's life will increase greatly. The other party is not like their Hyuga clan. With a powerful ninja like Uchiha Toshiro, even the 3rd Hokage would be wary. As for forming an alliance with the other party, he didn't have such an idea, but it would be good to use this to put pressure on the 3rd Hokage. He believed that as long as the news that he and Uchiha Fugaku were drinking tea together reached the ears of the 3rd Hokage, the other party would definitely have some reservations. If this could not save Hayashi's life, there would be nothing wrong in forming an alliance with Uchiha. After all, the other party now has a strong man who can defeat the Raikage and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. Oh, it's the Hyuga clan leader. Although he was a little puzzled, why did the other party invite him to drink tea together? Takeda Hall? It would be disrespectful to refuse. Facing Hayashi's invitation, Uchiha Fugaku readily agreed, completely unaware that he had become a tool for the other party to express his dissatisfaction with the 3rd Hokage. He is now in extreme entanglement. On the one hand, he is surprised that Uchiha Toshiro's strength is far beyond his expectations. On the other hand, there are those who are increasingly restless in the first branch of the family. If these people knew about this, I'm afraid they would become even more restless. Is this the Takeda Hall? Takeda Hall is a high-end club in Konoha. Generally, those who spend money here are all well-known figures in Konoha village. The patriarchs or elders of the major families of Konoha usually choose to sit here if they have something to do. Originally, with the identity of Uchiha Fugaku, although he is not a frequent visitor here, he should be quite familiar with this place. When you are free in the future, the Uchiha clan leader can come and have a look. I think with the Uchiha joining, the hall will feel more prosperous. Taking Fugaku into the Takeda Hall, Hayashi introduced some familiar acquaintances to Fugaku from time to time. In the past, the Uchiha clan naturally kept their distance, but now the 3rd Hokage has shown his old age, and the Uchiha clan is in the limelight. It is also reasonable for the patriarchs of those small and medium-sized families to make friends with them. Hyuga clan leader is so polite, with your introduction. I will definitely come here often in the future. Fugaku already knew the name of this place. He had never come here. One of the main reasons was that his family really had no friends in the major families of Konoha. Even if he came here, he would only be bored. However, now with Hayashi's introduction, he thought he would have a chance to integrate into their group. Of course, what he didn't know was that Hayashi did all this on purpose, just to let people know that he and the Uchiha clan leader had a good chat. What did you say? The clan leaders of the Uchiha and Hyuga clans sat together to drink tea, and they had a good chat? Before night had even arrived, less than half an hour had passed, and the situation here had been reported to the Sandaime by someone with ulterior motives. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. I know, don't tell anyone about this. Waving his hand, he directly dismissed the clan member, and the Sandaime had an unusual headache. Uchiha and Hyuga. How could these two guys get together? One has no connections but is very powerful, and the other has weaker strength but has good connections. If these two guys team up, thinking of this, both the Sandaime Hokage and the other people present all looked unhappy. Hiruzen, this is not a trivial matter. We must not let the Uchiha and the Hyuga join forces. We have to think carefully about the matter of Hisashi. Otherwise things will get out of control. The four people who had just agreed to suppress the Hyuga clan all denied the original plan. Yes, the Hyuga matter can be put aside for now. We still have to focus on the overall situation. Chapter 373 Scroll Power Kairabi. In the camp, Dong Shilang sat cross-legged on a cushion, holding a scroll in his hand and observing it carefully. From the dense and tiny words on the scroll and the clan emblem on the back of the scroll, it can be known that the origin of this scroll is the Uzumaki clan. The third Hokage is still keeping his word this time. After roughly browsing half of the contents recorded in the scroll, Dong Shilang was quite satisfied with the contents of the scroll. This time, the third Hokage did not tamper with it like the Flying Thunder God technique. But, what the hell is the Shikigami seal? This scroll actually includes this ninjutsu? Which surprised him. Is it because he has seen the fourth Hokage perform this ninjutsu? So he did not remove this ninjutsu from the scroll. There should be no other ideas, right? This scroll very considerately records how to perform this ninjutsu, as well as the method of signing a contract with the God of Death, and even the fact that the God of Death mask is placed in the Uzumaki name and hall is clearly recorded, and the ink was newly added. And there are these sealing techniques recorded in this scroll. It really surprised him, but it made sense. Just like most of the Uchiha ninjutsu were developed around the family-inherited fire escape technique and the Sharingan, most of the Uzumaki clan's sealing techniques require the Uzumaki clan's unique bloodline limit, such as the diamond seal, to perform. For this kind of secret technique related to the bloodline limit, even if the training method is placed in front of you, if you don't have the corresponding bloodline, you can only stare blankly. Without the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan, it is really difficult to perform these sealing techniques. At least the help of the Uzumaki clan is needed to perform them. No wonder the Sandaime handed the scroll to me so readily this time. It turns out that there is such a factor in it. He is not like the fourth Hokage, who has an Uzumaki wife who can help him perform these sealing techniques. However, he probably wouldn't have thought that I have already opened the Meixiang, and one of the eye techniques can copy or learn other people's abilities. Touching his eyes, Tawashiro smiled happily. During the gestation process of his eye technique, unlike Nayashiko or Obito, he did not experience strong mental stimulation. As time passed, he awakened himself very smoothly, and felt that it was a natural thing. But these two eye techniques really have their own characteristics. He felt that he didn't know how to describe his two abilities. They both have no direct attack capabilities, and one can allow him to clearly see the chakra composition of other people's abilities, understand its composition structure, and control his own chakra to imitate the other party's ability. No matter what kind of blood limit it is, its composition is inseparable from physical energy and mental energy. As long as the structure is known, it is not impossible to try to reproduce it. And this ability also brings another benefit, that is, he may use this ability to synthesize the blood net and open the samsara eye. The scope of this imitation includes but is not limited to the blood limit. He has a feeling that as his eyes grow further, Even if it is the same as the Meixiang technique, he can analyze its structure and imitate it. He just needs to find an opportunity to witness the diamond seal with his own eyes. There are not many people in the ninja world who have this ability now. As far as he knows, there are only Kushina from Konoha, Karen and her daughter from the Land of Grass, and Uzumaki and Oka who may exist near the Spirit Island. It seems that I still have to hurry up to find Karen and her daughter, but I don't know if they will use the diamond seal. Originally, Killer Bee was a good opportunity, but unfortunately, it was too easy for Kushina to patch up the iron seal again. There was no need for the diamond seal at all. After putting away the scroll in his hand, Toshiro took out another letter and began to read it. What a boring political game. After reading the content mentioned in the letter, Toshiro curled his lips in disdain. This letter was written by Uchiha Fugaku, which recorded in detail the change in attitude of the third Hokage during the negotiation with the Kuro ninja. He emphasized the change in policy of the third Hokage after he and Hayashi made their public appearance together. This is also one of the reasons why he disdained the position of Hokage. When he reached that position, he had to suppress the big families in his village, make various compromises when negotiating with other villages, and have various tugs of war with the daimyo. These are all things he has to face. Of course, there will be benefits, such as various secret techniques and subordinates, but he knows that being a leader means facing more than just these. Otherwise, how could someone like Danzo exist? Things like protecting the village should be left to people with ideals and ambitions. Uchiha Toshiro. Play the last tune. Again, this way. My new song will be more perfect. Yeah. Just as Toshiro put away the scroll in his hand and prepared to go for a stroll in the camp, this guy Killer Bee broke into Toshiro's tent without any scruples. Not only did he sing a weird rap, but at the end he also made a showy gesture with one finger pointing to the sky and the little finger curled up. You guy, don't you say hello before entering and leaving other people's tents? Facing this kind of community bully, Toshiro was helpless. Ever since this guy was captured, especially after Kushina personally sealed his chakra, he had no sense of being a prisoner at all, and this guy would be seen in the camp from time to time. Especially one night, Toshiro played a song Mohicans on the flute, and he stuck to it like a dogskin plaster. Why is this guy wandering around again? Aren't you clan leaders going to do anything about it? Too lazy to talk about this guy, Toshiro directly cast his eyes on the three figures following Killer Bee, especially one of the Nara ninjas. I'm so sorry to bother you. Lord Shikaku said that the peace talks between the two sides should be settled soon, so we don't need to restrict his actions too much. As long as he doesn't go to some sensitive places, he can move freely in the camp. They are also helpless. Who would have thought that this Cloud Ninja's Jinchuriki would be such an extroverted person? They have been with him for the past 2 days and they have lost their temper. In other words, the other party's identity is too sensitive. Not only is he the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, but he is also the younger brother of the Raikage. They can't just fight him. Chapter 374 Naruto and Hinata. Here, this song is not suitable for being adapted into your favorite rap. Being pestered by Kairabi, Dong Shilang directly wrote a sheet of music and handed it to him. I am talented. I can definitely complete the arrangement. And I will surprise your jaw. Kairabi was overjoyed when he got the music sheet from Dong Shilang. Last night, he was attracted by a melodious flute sound. Unexpectedly, when he got closer, he saw that it was the guy who beat him and the Eight Tails badly, playing the flute under the moonlight. Listening carefully, he was shocked on the spot and wanted to cooperate with the other party. If this music is arranged into rap and he is the lead singer, it will definitely be popular all over the world. It's just a pity that he was ruthlessly rejected by the other party. However, he did not intend to give up. He must move the other party with his pious heart towards music. I just hope you don't ruin this music. I have to admit that Kairabi still has a good talent in rap, but this song is really not suitable for being adapted into his style. Don't worry. When I have a concert, I will definitely invite you. Yeah. After getting the song he had been dreaming of, Kairabi did not give up. Instead, he took out a small notebook and handed it to Dong Shilang. This is my notebook. There are songs I wrote myself. Please help me to appreciate them. At this point, Kairabi's face turned red for a rare time, as if he was not confident about the works he had brought out. This, please. Seeing that Dong Shilang was still a little hesitant, Kairabi bowed directly with an extremely formal attitude. I'll try. Dong Shilang found that this guy was very serious now. Even the weird accent he usually spoke was useless. I don't know much about trap. I hope you won't be disappointed. After traveling to this world, it was rare that there were no fighting and killing things. Dong Shilang was not stingy to talk to him about music. Although he was not familiar with this aspect, he could not resist the advanced information in his previous life. While Tawashiru and Killer Bee were talking about music, a white-haired man in Konoha village was looking at the figure in the snow and was also troubled. Naruto, after learning that his mother was only on a business trip for a few days, behaved very normally on the first day, just like an ordinary child who suddenly lost his mother. But on the second day, this little guy was like a pony running away from his reins, running rampant in the village. What a trouble! Looking at the kid who had a conflict with several Konoha children in the snow to save a little girl, Kakashi put away the yellow notebook in his hand and began to look around carefully. The Sandame had specially instructed him to pay special attention to the abnormalities around Naruto these days, so he did not dare to be careless. The lady of the Hyuga family? It seems to be the main family? Looking around, Kakashi gestured to his subordinates and did not pay too much attention to these. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. What's your name? Can we be friends? Unlike in the original novel, with Kushina's careful care, Naruto is not a dwarf. He fully demonstrated the advantages of his Uzumaki bloodline and drove away the bad boys on the opposite side in no time. However, as in the original novel, Naruto still uses Kushina's surname. This is the result of the discussion between the third Hokage and Kushina, who said that this would be beneficial to Naruto's future growth. After all, the son of the Hokage, no matter where he goes, is the focus of attention of civilians and ninjas, which is not conducive to protecting Naruto. My name is Hyuga Hinata. It's nice to be friends with you. Hinata seemed to be too shy, stammering, and it took a lot of effort to make these few words clear. Thank you for driving them away just now. Hearing the other party's words, Naruto smiled cheerfully, stretched out his hand, and pulled Hinata up from the ground. Let's go play over there. There are people making snowmen over there. Let's join them. Naruto showed a cheerful smile to the other party, took the other party's hand directly, and ran towards another group of children playing in the distance. Is this really okay? Feeling the warmth transmitted from the other party's palm, Hinata asked cautiously. It's okay. If you are shy, I will tell them later. As if seeing Hinata's shyness, Naruto grinned at the other party, making Hinata's little face blush. Yeah. Did you say anything just now? Naruto, who was walking in front of Hinata, seemed to hear something and looked back, but he didn't dwell on it, and then turned his head and shouted to the distance. Hey, you guys, the snowman that Grandpa Naruto built is the best in Konoha. Do you want to join him? Where did this guy come from? I don't know, but I really want to beat him up now. As he spoke, the naughty little guy reached out and grabbed a ball of snow from the ground, squeezed it a little, and threw it at Naruto and Hinata. Look at my snowball technique, despicable. Sneak attack. Hinata, let's fight back. Oh, it's so cold. Hit it. The advantage in numbers made Naruto fall into a disadvantage from the beginning, but he is not a person who gives up easily. Hinata, don't just stand there and watch. Come and play together. Seeing that his little friend hadn't made any movement for a long time, Naruto looked back, was stunned for a moment, and then started to encourage. Hinata, who was still a little hesitant at first, saw that Naruto, who was fighting alone, was constantly hit by the opponent, and couldn't bear it. So she began to join the counterattack team. Swish! As a small and cute snowball was thrown out by her, her depressed mood seemed to disappear with the snowball. Oh, be careful, that girl is so good. Well done, Hinata. Come on. Looking at the playmates on the opposite side, who exclaimed from time to time because of Hinata's accurate throwing. Naruto was extremely happy, and at the same time did not forget to encourage his companions. Yeah, after being encouraged, Hinata was also very happy, and even her voice in response to Naruto seemed to become brighter. With her joining, Naruto's pressure was greatly reduced, and then a fierce battle broke out. The two gangs of children who had just met left cheerful laughter on the snow. As for the guards in the family, they were sent away by the very considerate Hute Kakashi with his clones, and they couldn't find this place for a while. Chapter 375 Agreement signed. I'm very happy to sign this peace agreement with you. I hope the friendship between Konoha and Kumagakure will last forever. In Konoha village, after half a month of stumbling negotiations, the Kumagakure envoys represented by Tsuchida arrived in Konoha. The two sides finally signed a fairly decent peace agreement. Of course, we Kumagakure also look forward to this hard-won peace. Let alone the jubilant Meixiang, and in Konoha, Tsuchida's face was not so good. In this peace agreement, the Kumagakure, did not get any advantage at all. After learning the specific content, the guys in the village did not know how to make a fuss, but there was nothing they could do about it. Who let the damn Iwagakure village know the news? Faced with pressure from both sides, they had to make some concessions. Goodbye, Toshiro. When I have a concert, I will definitely invite you. In the northern camp of Konoha, with the arrival of the Kumagakure envoy, Killer Bee was saying his final goodbye to Toshiro. The Kumagakure ninja frowned at his reluctant look. If the other party was not the good brother of the Raikage, he would have suspected that the other party had been instigated by the guys in Konoha. I hope that when we meet again, it will not be on the battlefield. When that happens, we must have a good drink. Looking at the rare serious Killer Bee, Toshiro also felt that this guy had a very good temper. These days of getting along with him made him very happy. No wonder he could become friends with the Eight Tails. Come to our Cloud Ninja village when the time comes. Our Cloud Ninja's strong liquor is famous in the ninja world. Showing a big smile to Toshiro, Killer Bee waved his hand and left the Konoha camp with the Cloud Ninja. While walking, he was still muttering. After doing all this, Toshiro, Kushina and others did not stay in the front line camp for long, and began to pack up and return to the village, especially Kushina, who had not seen Naruto for nearly 10 days. She was very worried. Since Naruto was born, they had never been separated for such a long time. I don't know if this little guy is doing well without me. But when she hurried back to Konoha and saw Naruto, Mom is back. Seeing Naruto making a snowman with a group of children of the same age, Kushina was very pleased and nodded to Kakashi, who was hiding in the dark to protect Naruto. Ka-san, welcome back. He threw himself into Kushina's arms. Regardless of his dirty clothes, Naruto missed Kushina a little after not seeing her for more than 10 days. But fortunately, he made a lot of good friends these days. Mom, this is my new good friend, Hyuga Hinata. When Naruto thought of his new friend, he immediately thought of Hyuga Hinata, and quickly broke free from his mother's arms, holding a little girl with short blue-black hair, and came to Kushina. Auntie. Hello. I am Naruto's new friend. Hyuga Hinata. Please take care of me. I don't know why, but when I saw Naruto's mother, I became extremely nervous. However, Hinata, who had become a little more cheerful after playing with Naruto these days, still plucked up the courage to say hello to Kushina. Speaking of which, all this should be thanked to the Kuro ninja. These days, because of his brother's affairs, Hyuga Hayashi didn't care about supervising his daughter's training. This gave Hinata time to come out and play. Is your name Hinata? You are such a shy child. Naruto is so impetuous. I hope he didn't cause you any trouble. When she saw this blushing, shy girl, Kushina thought of herself and Minato when they were children. The look she gave Hinata was even gentler than when she looked at Naruto. If he bullies you, Aunt Kushina will take care of him for you. It seems that I have to work harder. The eldest lady of the Hyuga family must prepare a very unusual betrothal gift. Even though the date hasn't been decided yet, the optimistic Kushina is already thinking about all these. Hinata, it's almost time now. Auntie just came back today. Why don't you go to Auntie's house as a guest? Looking at the sky, It was almost time for lunch. Kushina smiled gently at Hinata and invited her to her home. Auntie's fried chicken tastes very good. This is not good. It's okay. Auntie's house doesn't usually have many guests. It's rare to meet such a cute girl like Hinata today, so I decided happily. But shy Hinata didn't know how to refuse other people's kindness, especially Kushina's attitude was so enthusiastic. But with good family education, she was ready to politely refuse the other party's kindness. This is really too disturbing. And my family will be worried. What a well-behaved child. Hinata refused her invitation, and Kushina was not angry, but smiled even more brightly. In that case, then Auntie can always send Hinata home. Don't refuse. Worried that the shy child would refuse, Kushina added, the Uzumaki family's perception ability is very special. As soon as she saw the little girl, she sensed the gentleness and shyness emanating from her chakra. Hinata's appearance made her more determined in her thoughts. Okay. Hinata responded quietly, and stayed by Kushina's side obediently, lowering her head and fiddling with the lapels in her hands. Okay Naruto, go say hello to your playmates. Not long after, on the road leading to the Hyuga clan, Kushina held Hinata's hand behind her, and Naruto jumped in front. They stepped on the snow, leaving deep footprints. Just a few steps away, heavy snow fell from the sky. Kushina's red hair, in the flying snowflakes, was like a burning flame in the winter. She smiled, her eyes full of tenderness and love. From time to time, she gently brushed away the snowflakes on Hinata's head and stroked Hinata's cheek with her warm palm. Hinata, whose hand was held by Kushina, secretly looked up at Naruto in front of her, and Aunt Kushina whom she had just met. She felt that the cold environment around her was not so cold when she was with them. Kushina, please send Hinata back. This child is really ignorant. How could it be? Hinata is so cute. If there is a chance, I would like to invite Hinata to my home to play. I don't think Hayashi would disagree. How could it be? I'm just worried that this child will do something rude and cause trouble for you. Hinata, did you hear me? Don't refuse Aunt's invitation next time. Blinking at Hinata, Kushina took Naruto to say goodbye to the Hyuga mansion, and Hayashi, looking at his daughter, fell into deep thought. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.